Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto shows his bloodline and harem kurenai, Hinata Anko. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by KuroKitzune and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Ch1 What just happened? Sasuke. Falling to her knees, she watches as the mist dissipates and a raven-haired boy's form falls inside a group of floating mirrors. No, starting slow, the sobs come full force as she watches the boy die. Looking over, she sees her sensei fighting the demon of the mist. Her third teammate, a simple red-haired boy, was unconscious long ago. She watched as time seemed to slow before the mirrors started to shatter and fall to the concrete. TCH, arrogant for such a weakling, praising of the Uchiha clan like they ruled the world. Failure, you have nothing precious to you, you never had a chance. A boy emerged from a lone mirror, taking in the scene of the outside world after being enclosed within the dome. As if just regaining his hearing, a slow but steady sound came to his ears, bird chirping. He couldn't pinpoint the sound until he looked over at a glowing light. From the hand of the copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake, a glowing, sparking orb encased his right hand. Leaning to the left slightly, Kakashi takes off, intent on plunging his hand through the demon of the mist once and for all. Just arriving to the scene before them, a raven-haired beauty, a dog Nin, a Huga, and a bug Nin, all stood witness to the sight. Two comrades down, one useless, and one on the verge of victory. Looking down, the beauty nodded to the bug user, and he nodded back, running to the falling mirrors. The rest of them stood by the useless Nin and took up guard around an old-looking man. Watching from the sides was an unusual beast, in the land of waves at the very least. It took the color of white with black streaks, zebra stripes through its fur. Eyes a deep amethyst, slitted and mixed with red and blue hues. Large enough to give even the demon of the mist a scare, and as agile as the Huga. The feline watched, noticing the band worn on the 8 Nin protecting the old man. Never wanted to see that again, but I guess it's now or never, had to sometime, any? Growling, the feline noticed the boy that came out of the mirrors start to move, just as the Nin with the ball of lightning took off. No, can't have that now, can we, dear child? Watching from the sides in case she needed to help, the raven beauty was on guard, thinking over every possibility that could take place. What happened next froze everyone except the copy Nin in motion, too intent on his kill. The corner of her eye just caught the sight, and out of reflex she got into a defensive stance, all for nothing as she was shocked beyond belief. The feline pounces, landing on its target, flinging the ice user to the concrete, breaking his porcelain mask. In one quick motion, as the boy was stunned and couldn't believe his eyes, the feline tore through his throat. Blood seems to spray everywhere, but oddly the feline's fur never got stained by the crimson liquid. Making the end come quick, the feline decided to pull back its paw and slam its claw into and through the boy's chest cavity, effectively killing him before he could feel any pain, still too stunned to feel the pain in his neck. Growling maliciously, the feline watches as a hook catches on the side of the bridge they were on. Uncaring about the crowd watching, the feline charges and cuts the rope attached to the hook, hearing a number of screams jostled from below. Looking over the edge and seeing a sight that would, at least the feline thought, terrify the Nin on the bridge, it chose an action that shell-shocked the Nin watching it. Goodbye, Zabuza, demon of the mist, you were a worthy opponent, but this is your end. Slowly Kakashi took his bloody hand out of Zabuza's chest, watching in amazement as he fell coughing up blood but still had life in him. Why yes, I am glad, for coughing a rough bout, blood spatters all over his face, seeping through his mask. For an honorable defeat by someone such as yourself. Looking to the side, he sees his apprentice dead on the concrete. Go goodbye Haku, I won't see you where I'll be going. After another blood-gurgling cough, he finally lets death take him. One thought going through his head, Haku, you were more than I could ask for, a great genuine soul, I'm sorry I corrupted you. Saying a quick prayer, Kakashi finally noticed the scene before him. A beautiful white tiger had taken point on the bridge. Where it came from he couldn't tell. Kurenai-sensei? Seeing she got the raven beauty's attention, she continued. That animal, it's rare in the wilderness, and it's not from around here, is it? It seems like it's human somehow, it even has chakra, as if it was trained. Nodding, Karini tried to reply while turning back to the tiger. No, I've never seen a live one before. It's a majestic and beautiful sight, isn't it? I'm now sure where it came from, but I'm glad it helped us. We can repay it somehow, we should. Nodding, the Huga just watched the beast as it cut a rope that came up from below the bridge. Watching the waters below, the tiger did something no one could believe. It jumped, the hundreds and hundreds of feet down, to whatever may lay below. It took the dive, and somehow made it look majestic even for a suicide jump. Seeing the looks on the bandits' faces below was all but priceless to the feline. Fear, unbridled fear, and all from a simple animal, terrifying as it may be. Landing with all the grave of a feline jumping hundreds of feet, landing with chakra, it looked up at the bandits, and just seemed to grin. Everyone knows animals can't grin. Karini blinked, she looked around, and so did everyone else. No one seemed to move, just stare, blink, stare and blank nothing. No one could grasp what just happened. Out of nowhere came a melody, which became a fast beat after only a few seconds. It was amazingly loud to come out of nowhere. I know you'll be there to see the tables turning. Wake up tomorrow and watch the bridges burning. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my mind. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. A resounding explosion roared through the area, everyone wincing at the sound. I'm over me being under you. I'm breaking free and I'm breaking though. I've overcome all. I'm underneath. I can finally stand. I can finally breathe. Another explosion came this time, along with a shout that slightly resembled that was my new coach, you fucking shit stain. Remember when we first had the thought of living a perfect picture, but I did all the giving, gave up my passions to try to make you happy. The joke is over and I'll do all the laughing. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my Mindy. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. I'm over me being under you. I am breaking free. I'm breaking through. I've overcome all. I'm underneath. I can finally stand. I can finally breathe. More screaming ensued, something about a pair of pants this time. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my Mindy. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. Suddenly the music stopped. Everything went silent. Everything was calm. That instant was shattered as quickly as it came. From nowhere came a pressure. Karini, along with Kakashi, could only gape at the amount of compressed chakra down there. After a bright flash and once again another large explosion, this time big enough to shake the ground, they were one. Everything was once again silent. The Nin were all apprehensive to look over the edge, not wanting to see what happened. After a quick reminder, everyone was curious. Ano, where's the tiger? Karini-sensei, is it okay? The Huga asked slowly to her teacher. Not knowing what to say, the Raven Beauty just looks at her for a second before slowly starting the trek to meet with Kakashi by Zabuza's still bleeding corpse. So I take it he's dead? Trying to lighten the mood slightly as they arrived, the dog Nin looked down at the demon of the mist. Well, we would hope so, Kiba. If not, then he wouldn't be human, even if his title is Demon of the Mist. The bug user said as stoically as he looked. Shush, you two, Hinata, go check the two boys over there, Kakashi, and I will check below the bridge. Karini watched the Huga nod and trek over to the crying bubblegum-haired Nin, who by now was over the raven-haired boy's body. Taking point, Karini starts walking to the edge of the bridge hesitantly, Kakashi right behind her. Noticing movement right away on the other side of the chasm, Kakashi, out of reaction from his training, pulled out a kunai and was just about to throw it as Karini grabbed his hand, stopping him. On the other side of the chasm, the white tiger was walking up the cliffside. Sensing a possible danger, it stopped, settling its paw on a branch jutting out of the cliff face, and looked over its shoulder to the bridge. Nodding in approval to what the Raven Beauty did, the tiger steadied itself on the branch, looking over the chasm to the bridge. It's not gonna jump again, is it, Karini-sensei? Hinata asked upon seeing the tiger. She was only feet away checking the other unconscious boy. Before she could answer, that's exactly what the tiger did. It jumped. Although its leap was large, it was only a fraction of the gap. Letting out a growl, the tiger seemed to change and morph, deforming itself into something nondescript. The flesh and fur seemed to meld. Suddenly the fur changed into finer, stiffer strands before it began to take form. Black bone-like substance began to come out of its head, out of its throat it seemed. Its ears flattened, face taking on a sleeker look. Its front paws melded into itself, and seemed like the bone moved up to its back. The back claws lost all fur, leaving cracked dry talons in each spot. Its tail began to split and straighten out directly behind it like a fan. Its fur turned slick black, and seemed to shine in the light. Opening its eyes seemed to awaken it. With a loud but beautiful shriek, wings seemed to be ripped out from its back, the shriek signifying its completion. Taking a quick dive, the raven flapped once, gaining ground quickly. Karini and Kakashi couldn't comprehend what they just saw. A feline, just turned into a bird, a very large bird. Jumping back, they both gave it room. It seemed to be coming directly towards them. Kakashi got in a defensive stance. Karini was just awed by the beauty. Taking some time and letting the feeling of flight control it for a second, the raven just flew over their heads, and every one of those heads whipped to watch the giant bird. Relishing in the feeling, it quickly decided to land. Taking a dive down the chasm, the raven touched down on the water, skimming its surface and cutting the water. Flapping a few times, the bird just seemed to command the winds, and it soared up. Grappling the edge of the bridge, it folded its wings into itself and seemed to just stare, its purple eyes glancing over every Nin on the bridge that was alive. Still deep amethyst, the eyes changed, pupil covering more of the iris, seeming to move on its own within the iris, twisting. Unlike move birds, it didn't hop when it walked. Instead, it took strides like a human. One step of this bird was equivalent of 3 steps that Karini took to the side, admiring its beauty. Kakashi, for his part, just stood in a defensive stance as the bird seemed to overlook him and walk by, swaying its head to take in the scenery. A few feet past the two older nin, the bird noticed the boy, the one with all the needles, was starting to awake. Finally the Uchiha awakens from his slumber. Any? Ugh, I feel like a fucking pincushion. What happened? Opening his eyes, the Uchiha noted everything seemed clearer. The pink-haired girl was right beside him, crying. Looking down at him, she smiled, a true smile of utter joy. Sasuke-kun. She carefully started taking out some more pins. The Hinata did not, since they didn't stab into any major part of his body. Karini took a second to glance over to the downed Uchiha, and then at Kakashi, nodding slightly to him. Kakashi nodded back and relaxed, taking strides over to the Uchiha, and sliding his headband down, a look of relief on his face. Kakashi-sensei? What happened? I feel unusual. I was toyed with, wasn't I? Clenching his fist, the Uchiha scowled. I'm not sure if that's what happened. You were immobilized. Apparently Haku didn't want to kill you. You'll be fine with rest, Sasuke. Seeing him nod, Kakashi moves his focus back on the bird who was watching them. Karini slowly took a step closer to the bird, after getting its attention. Reaching a hand out, she shakily tried to touch the raven, as if not wanting to offend it. The raven took a stride towards her and everyone stiffened. Karini more than anyone else was stone still. The raven just slid its head into its wing and plucked a feather, setting the tip between her fingers. Karini gasped. It was too soft, for a raven anyway. It was as if the raven was just born, its coat never stained or dirty. Slowly she stepped back and watched the raven with interest. It started to caw gently, as if grunting. The legs were the first to change this time. They seemed to expand as feathers dropped from it and clung together. The new appendages seemed to flow in the wind, like silk. Its tail feathers just receded, along with its beak. The wings seemed to shrink but didn't leave. The mass from the wings seemed to writhe and formed what appeared to be arms as the figure seemed to kneel on the concrete. The sleek feathers began to recede around its body, leaving tone-taut skin underneath. The feathers on its chest and back moved seemingly to a cloth attached to its back, between its wings. The black faded out as color seeped in. The cloth attached to its back was almost a cape, crimson-red in color on the inside, black on the outside. The legs turned out to be fabric also, silver, black flames climbing the sides with red trim. 2 belts seemed to fall from the figure's hips, crossing an X in the middle, scrolls adorning many clips. A bare but toned chest seemed to be shown off. 6 whisker marks adorned the figure's face, little to no fat anywhere on his body. Face was no exception. His hair was a light blonde, with crimson streaks, long enough to be held in a ponytail, ending just between his shoulder blades, bangs framing his face. His hair resembles Itachi's almost, Karini thought before the last feature was revealed. Slowly he opened his eyes, a deep amethyst, normal, with a red ring around his pupil that was dilating down from the transformation. Coming up from his kneeling position, his wings seemed to recede into his back at this point. His cloak closed around his frame and they noticed it was hooded, along with the clasp on his neck holding it together. It was a red swirl, delving into itself like a whirlpool. Taking a single step and reaching Karini, he takes the feather and brushes a few strands of hair behind her ear, settling the feather along with them right behind her ear. She's beautiful, and I just love her eyes. Smiling, he takes back his hand and notices a light blush adorning her face. What just happened? Karini was still comprehending what happened before she noticed her blush, thankful she was facing away from everyone but this man that appeared before her. He's way too good to be true, nice, gorgeous. I may be the ice queen, but... Excuse me, thank you for saving my student. Kakashi walked over and introduced himself. I am Kakashi Hatake. Known for your Sharingan, and famous for having mastered over 1,000 jutsu with that eye, creating your own Chidori, or Raikiri, the lightning blade, an S-rank assassination technique. His voice seemed to be as majestic and soft, like silk for the ears. The man nodded. I know of you. Turning to Karini, he continues. Karini Yuhi, Genjutsu mistress of Konoha, known to kill without even moving, mastered your art to a letter, not even needing hand seals half the time. Impressive for a newly appointed jounin. He nodded again and bowed to them. Assuming by looks, you also have an Inuzuka, along with his partner, a Huga, an Aburame, on your team. Karini. Kakashi, you seem to have one of the last Uchiha, who seemingly just activated his Sharingan. Chuckles lightly. I don't recognize the pinkette, and if I remember correctly, the last one is from the Terumi clan, I believe? Not yet having his bloodline under control, I see. Kakashi stiffened. How do you know so much about us? He took a defensive stance, knowing he wouldn't last but could hopefully delay him to let the others get away in case they need to run. The man smiled, a small smile taking in the looks everyone gave. Karini was on guard but almost amazed. Sasuke was scowling, Hinata was stunned, Kiba was growling along with his dog, Shino the Aburame, stood there but buzzing could be heard easily. The Terumi and the Sakura were both sitting amazed at this person knowing so much. I just read up on my home is all. I hate Konoha. But if I need to fight I need to know my enemies. If I don't then it's a good conversation starter, any? He grinned a playful grin and Kakashi faltered slightly. Why do you hate Konoha? Kiba screamed, being brash. It's a great place, the biggest shinobi village and… Kiba! Be quiet, it's not time for you to talk. Karini chastised him as she watched the man, while being slightly more on guard. Sighing he looks to Kiba and both Karini and Kakashi fall into a full defensive stance when he takes a step towards him, but ends up using that step to fall and sit down where he once stood. Well now, that would be a long story to tell, wouldn't it? Let's just keep it simple, shall we? Konoha was once a very good village, yes. Went through all their heads. I say was because they may be top dog now, but they have laxed on their training and on their defenses. Anyone can attack right now, any village, and deal immense damage, maybe not win, but the damage will be great enough for a second wave to come and take out the village. He watched as realization dawned on the two Jounin Nin. Now a few years ago, I lived there, a few, as in maybe 13 years. 14? I was the pariah, the hated one, unwanted, so one day I left. They got their wish, I was gone from their lives, and they have peace, as they see it anyway. Little did they know if trained right, I would be one of the best nin alive, better than your yandame. Kakashi was gawking now, being his student he just knew how strong Minato was. I left, with a reminder in place, to come back at some time, and see Aji-san before he passed. He was the only one who treated me as I should have been treated, along with the restaurant owner Ichiraku I believe. Kakashi started to think on who this man could be. He's about 16, maybe 17 could he be? Kakashi was taken aback, staring at the man. Maybe he figured it out already. If not, too bad. My name is Naruto. Karini and Kakashi gasped, Kakashi because he was Naruto's guard when he was in ANBU. Karini because she's heard about him from the Hokage, and has met him a few times before. Dobe, what's your full name? Sasuke said, standing with some help from Sakura. Venom seemed to lace his voice. Uchiha, arrogant as any other. At least I've met one good-natured one. Letting the venom slide away he looked back at Kakashi. You know who I am, don't you? Slowly Kakashi started to nod just barely. You should, I'm the son of your sensei. Karini gasped again, he was implying to be. Looking over at Karini he smiled. Yes, Karini-san. I am in fact Naruto Namikaze. Son of Minato Namikaze, yandame of Konohagakure. The genin were the ones to gasp this time, the yandame being the most famous person to come from the village, also the strongest. Chapter 1 End. Naruto, I'm sorry I couldn't keep you in Konoha, Kakashi said as his defensive stance left him almost as fast as he went into it. Smiling slightly. You know, Scarecrow. If I remember correctly, you tried to shove a Chidori through my chest? Kakashi, having the decency to look ashamed and averted his gaze from the blonde. Yeah, about that, it really doesn't matter anymore, I'm over it. Just like all the scars Konoha has been kind enough to treat me with. It all just adds up to more of a reason why I hate that village, but for the old man I'm coming back, and if you don't mind, Karini-san, I'd like to come with you and your teams. Yes sure I suppose, I mean it wouldn't hurt for you to come with us, better than being alone. Karini nodded and watched as Kakashi started to rouse his one unconscious student back into the living world. Shino, inspect the area around us please. Just check it, see if there's anyone else around. Tazuna, please get to work on the bridge, we will take care of the bodies, and clean up while you do. Karini instructed to the two, nodding. Tazuna started to struggle out of his stupor. Tazuna-san. If you would like I can help you out. Everyone looked at Naruto wondering how he could help. Well, it would make it quite a bit easier for you, might even get the bridge done sooner than expected. Naruto grinned at Tazuna. Yes sure, if you want to help that's fine with me, I'll just kage a bunch in a small coat of smoke covered the bridge. Before the smoke cleared, Kakashi had one thought through his mind. How many did he make? He must have a huge chakra capacity to make so many. As the smoke cleared, it revealed to have an endless amount of Naruto. There's about 300, give or take 10 either way. Tell them what to do, and they will no worries. Helpful, any? He grinned as he noticed everyone's eyes widen and jaws drop. What? It's not that hard for me. I mean, this isn't even the amount I use for my training, though I do regularly send them out on civilian jobs. The teacher's eyes widened even more at this. What kind of training does he do that can use more than this? Coughing and regaining her composure, Karini turns to her students. You three will help with this also. We need to get this over with before Gato can realize his mercenaries are all dead. Watching her team nod, she smiles, turning to Kakashi and notes, as he told his team the same. Karini, I'll be helping Tazuna with what I can. Nodding to him, she opens her mouth to speak but was cut off by Naruto. I'm going to take a walk. Karini, would you like to come with? I hope to run into Gato's hideaway and I would enjoy some light company. A few years without it and I would like to have someone to chat with. Only logical any? Giving Kurenai a smile that made her heart skip a beat, he turned and started to help Kakashi clean up the bodies of Haku and Zabuza. Think it over for a few minutes? I'm going to help Scarecrow over here clean up. Getting a nod from her to signify she'd think it over. Walking over to Haku's body, Naruto picks him up and takes him to a soft spot on the grass. Setting him down with respect, Naruto gets up and walks back to the bridge. Scarecrow, I'll take Zabuza's body, you rinse off the bridge. It'll be faster than trying to do it one at a time. Nodding to him, Kakashi watches as Naruto picks up Zabuza with ease as if he was a child. Watching him go to the grass along with Haku, he takes up his job, going through some hand signs. Water bullets spitting out 4 large balls of water, 2 hit each blood stain on the bridge. Each with enough force to spray the blood off the bridge after diluting the color, making a light pink, barely noticeable as the crimson liquid. After his job was done, he decided to watch over the genin and Naruto, until he left, that is. Sending his chakra through the ground beneath him in a swift motion, Naruto thrusts his palm toward the ground. A crater appears, as his focused chakra pushes the soft ground below it. Repeating this once more, he makes a slightly bigger hole in the ground. Using simple chakra strings, merely the basics, he lifts both bodies and set them into the craters intended as graves. Letting the strings release after the bodies gently hit the dirt, he runs through a few hand signs. Flowing mud river shooting a condensed stream of mud from his mouth, Naruto fills up the 2 graves. Running through more hand seals intending to dry up the mud a little bit, grand fireballs, slowly the mud began to harden until he stopped, right around where it seemed the other ground was. Stone spikes, 2 large spikes jutted out from the top of the graves. Wind blades, many invisible blades chopped up and carved the spikes into gravestones. Lean rectangles with their names carved in them respectively, name of rank he thought appropriate, and how they died honorably. Finally, the finishing touch, any? Undergrowth vines, slowly grass started to grow over the dried mud, vines started to cover the gravestones, enough to make it look aged but not to obscure the text etched into the stone. Everyone seemed to gape at his actions: stone, wind, fire, and what elemental jutsu used for just graves. How strong could he be to control all of those already? Kakashi watching in fascination along with Kurenai, Sakura, Hinata, Kiba, and the Teremi heir. Sasuke was seething inside. He couldn't stand how this dope could just walk in and be so much better than him. He needed that power, not this loser. Shino just seemed to be impassive to this all, but Naruto noticed a small twinkle of amazement in his eye, just barely seen behind his glasses. Well, now, that's why they have those glasses? Interesting enough, well, they don't need to be criticized more than they already are, any? Hey! Loser, show me how to do those jutsu. I need that power to become stronger, and carry out my ambition. Sasuke yelled from the bridge at Naruto. Karini was watching Naruto most of the time he was back, telling herself it was to keep an eye on him, but she knew better. She noticed as she watched, that his eyes seemed to lose some of their shine, and darken as Sasuke spoke. Uchiha, don't tell me what to do. Looking Sasuke right in the eyes, he must admit, he respects the Uchiha, slightly at best. He didn't flinch away like most would. What on earth makes you think I'll even consider doing something nice for an Uchiha? The only good Uchiha that came from that clan is Itachi. Naruto bluntly states. What? Fuck you, Namikaze. Sasuke lunged at him, whipping out a kunai, intent described in his eyes death. Naruto smirked, taunting an Uchiha was quite fun. Letting the Uchiha think he's so great, Naruto just lets Sasuke nick his arm, standing still, just bending his body slightly. Horrible aim for an Uchiha, especially taijutsu. Sasuke! Knock this off at once. Kakashi tried reprimanding him first. Sasuke takes another charge at him, this time intent on his chest, not his neck. Flashing in front of Naruto, his back to him, Sasuke tries to plunge the kunai into his heart. Silly boy, frontal attacks won't work on a real shinobi. Naruto grabbed his wrist, pulling his arm down and twisting it, effectively popping it out of its socket. Shoving Sasuke onto the ground, Naruto plants his foot directly onto his back, forcing all the air from his lungs. The genin watched, entranced. Everything happened in a matter of seconds, simple short seconds, seemingly worthless, and the last remaining Uchiha could have died in those few seconds. Kakashi-san, you need to train this one much better, and from the looks of the pink-haired one, her too. He's far too weak to take on Zabuza. If you had got knocked out and Kurenai-san's team wasn't there, he would have been dead long ago, along with your whole team. You're slacking, Hatake. In A and B you were never this loose on someone's training, fix it. Naruto could have sworn he heard Kakashi say yes, sensei. Though he told himself he was mistaken. He sounded so much like Minato I even called him sensei? He's right though, I need to up their training, he sighed, opting to leave his books at home during training from now on, not to say he wouldn't take them on missions though. Naruto leaned over and picked up Sasuke, staring him directly in the eyes, this time though he did flinch. Grabbing the arm that he just dislocated, Naruto grinned. He was gonna love this part. Roughly pulling the arm away from Sasuke's body, he pushes the shoulder joint back into place with an audible crack, as well as an ear-piercing scream of Sasuke's throat. Sasuke! Sakura came running to him and grabbed his arm, while trying and failing to glare at Naruto. While in his mini stare down with the pinkette, Naruto voices his opinion. Kurenai-san. Yes, Naruto? Kurenai looked up from talking to Hinata. This was her first kill sight as it was. She's just the only one to get over the shock of the Yandame's son first. We should go on that walk now, try to find Gato's hideout, any? Finally looking away from Sakura, he looks up and smiles at Kurenai, getting that warm feeling to bubble up again. Yes, well, looking down at Hinata, she continues, I don't think I should leave Hinata alone without me here. Kurenai lies a hand on her shoulder. That's fine, Kurenai-san. I'll leave a few Kage-bunshin with her to help her out. I know how hard a first kill sighting is. They will inform me if anything happens. That and Kakashi is still here. She'll be fine, trust me. Naruto walks over and holds out his hand for her. Taking his hand as a friendly gesture, she lets him pull her up. Whoa, his hands are so warm. Is this how he always is? It's so comforting. Kurenai definitely notices the lack of warmth as he lets her hand go, opting to kneel beside Hinata. Hey, the first is always the worst. Making sure you still feel remorse just means you're human, and you don't enjoy killing. No nin likes killing, unless they're missing nin, but that's a whole other story, any? Smiling and softening his voice to a small whisper, he watched as Hinata giggled at his joke, a blush adorning her face at the sound of his voice. Everyone eventually has to kill, unless you're a medic nin. Even so, you will still see death. Just let it out now, alright? It will make it easier to cope with later. You'll be okay as long as you realize that when your first kill comes, it's not your fault. It was a mission and you're just carrying it out, or you're defending yourself, one or the other. Nodding to her, he can see her eyes brimmed with tears threatening to spill. Making a few Kage-bunshin, Naruto picks her up, taking her over to a tree and lets the 3 bunshins take care of her. Treat her like a queen, you guys. Let her relax, make her relax. If she passes out, don't move, just one expel. Turning back to Hinata, he continues. I'll be taking your sensei for a while, is that okay, Hinata-chan? Hinata's blush deepens into a new shade as she nods and hugs him, muttering a thank you and to keep Kurenai safe. Naruto smiles and nods, letting the clones take care of her. Kurenai-san, let's go, we'll be back in a few hours or so. Walking back to her, he decides to make this a faster route. Would you hold on, please? Kurenai nods and, along with Kakashi, usher the genin to get to work and stop watching. Sasuke walks off with a glare at Naruto. Naruto, for his part, transforms into the white tiger again right in front of Hinata, before prowling up to her and nuzzling her before dashing off to Kurenai. The whole process might only take seconds to complete, but it's an odd sensation to get used to the new body. Appearing in a white blur next to Kurenai, Sakura jumps at the speed it moved. Purple eyes watching her, bemused by her behavior. Looking up at Kurenai, Naruto just bowed and nudged her leg, egging her to get on him. Kurenai, for her part, stared at him, unsure what exactly he wanted. Getting as close to a sigh as a tiger can get, Naruto slouched more and dove under her legs, sliding her onto his back. Kurenai, again for her part, let out something very Hinata-like. A blush seemed to just appear on her face after that, and Naruto mentally grinned at this. Adorable to boot. Oh yeah, she's definitely a nice catch for someone. Applying chakra to his back to make sure she stayed put, he took off at a decent pace, letting her get used to the jostling. Kakashi, along with the genin, watched in minute amazement at the action that just took place, having some different reactions for each person. Kiba exclaimed his opinion. Wahoo Akameru! That's going to be like us when you get older, no doubt. The dog just barked up at him and wagged its tail. Shino noticed his sensei's blush and tried to analyze it. She seems happy? I'm unsure. Asuma has been annoying her lately, and Naruto just jumped in. Maybe he would be good for her. I wonder if he could turn into a bug. Actually, do I even want to know that? Continuing to ponder his own thoughts and shake his head, he gets back to work. Sasuke didn't even pay attention to, focused on brooding about his loss to Naruto. Kakashi was taking the Terumiere through the events that just happened, and you see Shirin, that's what happened this whole time, caught up to speed now. Seeing him nod, Kakashi smiles. Shirin took all of this and wondering how he could possibly transform and have wood element jutsu. Sakura was worried about Sasuke and keeping on task while thinking about him. Tazuna, while working, was jealous of the boy a bit. Damn Gaki, he can turn into animals? Hell, he even got that hot nin girl to ride him literally. Geez, he must be lucky, instructing every clone to their own job. He takes up his also. Hinata didn't know what she was feeling, jealousy? Of her sensei even? The gorgeous guy wanted her, at least so Hinata thought, and he obviously wasn't being shot down like Asuma was. Though she was feeling happy for her, her sensei seemed to be calmer and a bit more girlish than normal. This made the heiress giggle. Kurenai-sensei? Girlish? No way, Just no way though. She knew one simple fact that bothered her the most. She got to ride the damn white tiger. She wondered how soft Naruto's fur must on Kurenai's legs while whipping through the forest. Starting to blush, she shook her head. Not the time for fantasizing, sadly. The clones watching Hinata were smiling, their boss seemed happy and even took over in a gentle trot, not a hunter-hungry prowl. Looking down, the Naruto against the tree watched as Hinata just leaned back into him, while the other two Narutos kept her some company. He smiled softly, remembering his first sight of death, and tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, gaining a weird look from the other clones, and an intense blush from Hinata. Well, I guess it's not all bad. I got 3 of him to myself. Hinata mentally giggled, which oddly seemed perverted. Leaning back, she relaxed into the clone she was laying on, and closed her eyes, letting the sight of death drain out of her mind. "'Cause I don't want to be like this. I've been running the streets for too long now, but the further I go, I want to go home." Naruto seemed to sigh, seeing truth in the lyrics he couldn't get out of his head. "I miss Aji-san and Ichiraku ramen, of course." He grinned a tiger-like grin. "She's so light. Is she even still up there?" Cocking his head to the side, he looked back glancingly. The sight that adorned him made him almost fall from the branches he was flying through. Karini was laid flat against him, he fishnet the only thing holding her breasts in her dress. Eyes closed but obviously awake, if the snuggling into his fur was any indication. So soft. Naruto, for his part, almost tripped again, deciding to go down to the forest floor. What caused it this time? Why, Karini feeling the need to get her hands into his soft fur, right behind his ear while scratching gently. As he touched down, he actually started to growl affectionately, a purr if you will. Luckily it was so soft, Karini didn't notice. As he slouched down, she got the idea and got off, watching in amazement as he once again transformed into the real Naruto, his eyes being feral for a few minutes afterwards. Those eyes, Karini bit her lip lightly. They seemed primal, and protective and hot as hell. "Karini-san, this should be far enough, not close to town." Naruto turned back to her after looking around. "Which way would you like to go? Or would you want to split up?" His voice seemed to falter just slightly at the end. No, we should stay together. How about north? We came from the east, correct? And he did have boats to probably down by the river somewhere." Karini concluded, and Naruto agreed with a nod and a smile. After walking in silence for a few minutes, Naruto decided to break it. "So since we're going to be traveling together, how about we get to know one another? Likes, dislikes, normal introduction?" Turning to Karini and gauging her reaction, he made sure not to look like he was really watching her. Well, I'm Karini Yahi. Crimson Rose? Very nice name. I like dango, since my friend always takes me out to eat it. Reading a good book once in a while, tending to my rose garden, and watching my team grow to be great shinobi." Karini paused to think over her dislikes, while Naruto interrupted. "Naruto Namikaze, I like ramen, training, a beautiful rose, and of course animals." Karini didn't quite catch what he meant by that. "I would like to see Aji-san soon. I like to read in my spare time, and the spars that Jiraiya can give me." "He spars with a Sannin? Amazing. Okay, I take it my turn again?" Naruto nods and Karini laughs lightly. "That's a melodically gorgeous. I dislike perverts. After a point, everyone has a side to them, they just don't need to show it off all the time, or at all. How guys always hit on me, even after I obviously don't show any interest. Sometimes they seem to try violently." Inwardly growling, Naruto wonders what's become of Konoha. He scowled at that shows promise. Karini smirked. "People misjudging one another on appearances, and how Konoha is slowly decaying. As you said, the council is to blame though." "Yes, I know, Danzo especially. Well, I dislike people who try to take advantage of others, defenseless or not. People shoving me off as the pariah when all I've ever done is protect them." Karini frowns at this, knowing exactly what he meant. The Uchiha, for their arrogance and power hungriness, and over-controlling people. "My dream is to teach my team to the best of my abilities and make them great, while watching them grow strong. To finally find someone and settle into a nice relationship that is passionate and romantic." And while that points, Karini giggled mentally. "So, she's not taken?" "That's amazing." Naruto literally lets his eyes betray his surprise. Karini never catches this. "Finally is to watch the village prosper and come to its glory again." "Okay, those are very nice. My dreams are to..." Suddenly he stopped and pulled Karini to him and behind a tree, literally pulling her off her feet, sliding a hand over her mouth to stop a squeak that may escape. Karini starts to struggle to get away, thinking he was going to go against what he hated, her views on him slowly starting to change. "Sure." Naruto hushed her, and she calmed down, closing her eyes waiting for it to come. She couldn't fend him off. While her eyes were closed, she took note of everything around her. He had her pressed against him, back to his chest. An arm around her midriff, strong and almost caring, holding tight but gentle. That's not right. His hand, she could tell, was just over her mouth, not pressing down, relaxed. Seeing her calm down, he takes his hand away from her mouth and sets it on her hip, keeping her from getting away. Very carefully, so soft it barely passes the threshold of hearing, he whispers. Kurenai, relax, guard's coming. Feeling his hand on her hip and his breath on her neck, she was about to scream. Stupid move, moving your hand. That is until she heard him speak barely, but still heard him, she stiffened. Closing her eyes, she took in more of her surrounding. She didn't notice much except that she felt calm, too calm she thought in this situation. Deciding to just lean onto him, she relaxed more into his chest, saying this was to hide and not be seen by the guards. As the minutes passed, Naruto had thoughts of his own. She's toned up, explains why she's so light. She feels nice against me like this, he notes, that her hair smells like wild roses, as it's pressed up against his neck and face. Her lips are soft, and have a bit of volume to them, and her hip just seems to have the perfect curve to it. Soon he finds himself blushing lightly, forgetting about the guards. I've never had this feeling before, it's not unwelcome, just now's not the time. Steeling himself, he focuses on the mission. Kurenai's getting edgy, comfortable but edgy. She was about to get up when she heard voices. Yeah, both boats were seen floating down the river, we just got them, full of dead bodies. The first voice said, masculine. No way. Another voice stated, masculine but seemed younger. Yep, that's why we're taking the back way, catch them off guard. The first said again, a twinging sound echoing. He's playing with a kunai, or katana, thought Naruto quickly. Stay. Naruto told Kurenai quietly, showing no room for compromise. She nodded, taking out a kunai for defensive purposes. Nodding his approval, Naruto takes to the road. They're around the bend so he won't be noticed. Taking to a normal stroll type of walk, he continued down the path a few minutes, going around the turn and coming to see a man and a boy. Apprentice, I bet. Seeing Naruto, the older one stiffened, hoping Naruto wouldn't notice as he moved his hand to grab his katana just in case. Good evening, this is the road to the boating docks, correct? Naruto asked, acting lost. Huh. Well, yeah, you see, the old man fumbled over his words, lost at the chances of finding someone lost. Yeah. The dock is just down the road and to the left, but you're going to have to wait, the only 2 boats are taken out right now. The younger one seemed to keep his cool better, glancing a glare at his master. Why, thank you. Naruto cheered and waved, getting back to pace and continuing his walk. That guy was weird, Psycho, the smaller one said. Yeah, well, hopefully they kill him, we just want the Konoha Nin's Teramu. Psycho commented, letting his release on the katana finally come. Now. Naruto jumped into the woods and followed from the side, catching up quickly. Soon he saw Kurenai and knew to take action before she did. Wondering what was taking him, Kurenai sighed. Now that he was gone, she was colder, like he kept her warm the whole time. His aura is calming and warming, how nice. She blushed, a real red bright blush. Was he feeling me up? Or admiring my body? Shit, there they are. Naruto, what are you waiting for? Taking a stance that hid her body from view, she waited, hoping to not be seen, suppressing her blush by focusing on them. Dashing from the forest, Naruto landed a roundhouse kick to Psycho, simultaneously grabbing his katana from the sheath and spinning 360, effectively chopping Psycho's head off, and getting the katana blocked by the boy. Well now, good thing I kept on guard, I'm not so senile unlike him. Grinning, Teramu charged Naruto, pulling his kunai out and slicing at Naruto's neck. Naruto ducked, sliding into a leg sweep, knocking the boy off his feet into a backhand spring. After taking of his hands, he threw the kunai at Naruto, who did Anto her roundhouse kick, adding chakra to it. Catching the blade and spinning around twice, he cut the flow of chakra, sending the kunai whistling through the air, and directly through the boy's hand. Fuck. Gah. Grabbing his hand, he notices he's missing 3 fingers. What the fuck did you do? Chakra is great, isn't it? Wind chakra is nice, sharpening any object to a point beyond metal means. Watching as the boy hunches over his hand, Naruto dashes, slicing down with the katana, separating the boy's head from his neck. TCH, not even worth this blade. Too slow. Naruto went from serious to laid back quick and dropped the katana, walking back to Kurenai. Hey Kurenai, let's go to the docks and pay a visit to them, any? Grinning at the chance of destruction, he watches her come out of the forest. Yeah, sure, let's go. Kurenai follows Naruto as he leaps from tree to tree. Taking in the sight of the docks, it was huge, at least the size of the Hokage monument. Naruto grinned more, the thought of taking on the mercenaries and their making his adrenaline pump. Kurenai noticed his grin, it seemed to her of bloodlust, an animal after its kill, hunting its prey. She shuddered, she liked it, and it scared her at the same time. Come Kurenai, we need to do some exterminating. She could sense the smile in his voice as he walked away from her. So much for not liking to kill, huh? Seems he's thrilled about it. What happened to Kurenai-san? Naruto? Grinning, she watches him stumble slightly. Ma, would you rather me say Kurenai-san? Now Naruto grinned as he turned to watch her reaction. Grin still in place, she walks up and past him. Nah, I think I rather like it without the honorific. Oh, you definitely like it. Naruto stops for a second. Is she messing with me? Or flirting with me? Gah. Who knows? Catching up, he tells her to split up and flare her chakra if she needs him. Taking off in different directions, they have one goal set in mind: take out Gato, and give this land peace. Walking through the halls, he keeps on guard, pulsing a light chakra pulse to detect anyone. So far so good, no one's here. Sliding into the next room, he spotted 3 guards. Must be getting close now. Windblade silently thinking the jutsu, he watches as they fall to the ground without a noise, other than a thud they make, all at once. Slipping into the last room, he hears talking. No, you stupid Nin, I want them dead. I don't care what you want to do. Kill them or else I kill you. A pudgy man seemed to try and take charge of a missing Nin, Kiri by the looks of it. What's with all the Kiri Nins? Taking out the 2 guards at the next door, Naruto motions at the Nin to stay quiet. Seeing a very slight nod, he talks back to the fat man. Well, too bad, you're not giving me enough cash for this mission. If Zabuza died, then it's a suicide mission and I'm not taking it unless I get more money. End of discussion. The Nin crossed her arms and seemed to smirk at the fat man. Watching a blonde boy sneak through the office to the desk. Fine. Then you're going to die. Guards. He waited a few seconds and turned to see a chest, silver pants, and a kunai directly in front of him. They're dead, Gato. The man backed away, almost tripping over a plank of wood uprooted from the floor. Who are you? Trying to get a good distance, Naruto never moved, distance wouldn't matter. Who, me? He grins. Oh, no one, just your worst nightmare, Gato. Naruto jumps and takes a gash into Gato's arm. Gah! Gato went to grab his arm only for the same kunai to be lodged into his shoulder, leaving it immobilized. Spittle flew from his mouth, but Gato made no sound at all. Naruto took another step, seeing as the fat man isn't going to move anywhere. Please. I'll give you whatever you want, leave me alone. Gato cried out at Naruto. Oh, really? Anything I want? Toying with the idea of getting something, Naruto plays along. Yes. Anything. Yes. Anything. Karini just walked through a door, only having to take out a few mercenaries. She came to the sight of Naruto playing with the idea of getting anything he wanted from Gato. Well, you see, there's this one thing I want. Naruto seemed to grin when he said this, sensing Karini entered the room. But I'm sure I can get it on my own. I mean, a rose always comes along, you just have to pick it at the right time, when it's at its peak in beauty. Naruto's grin grew bigger. Karini seemed to understand this one and blushed deep, Hinata deep. Karini just watched and was laughing in her head, holding it all back and enjoying the show. That woman is very beautiful, is he talking about her? She smirks, watching Karini turn red. Yep. And no! I can help you get it. I'm Gato. I can help. Gato screamed, edging away from Naruto, who just took a stride to balance out the distance. Oh? I don't think so. Besides, I don't need help, and Naruto stopped, just letting the suspense sink in. I can just take whatever I want from you after I kill you anyway. Then give Wave what they need to prosper again. Gato reeled in horror at this. Naruto had enough of the fat man. In one swift motion he tossed his kunai, lodging it into the man's skull, right between the eyes. Instant death. I suggest you go, Kirin. Gato is gone, you need to help your Mizukage, correct? The Nin nodded and Shun shined out, leaving with a grimace on her face. Reminder, never get on his bad side, I didn't even see him throw it. Naruto, you just saved the whole village, you know that, right? Karini asked, still blushing slightly. Yep, he stated, with a single smile, and went behind the desk grabbing a few documents. Here, Karini, take these please? Handing the documents over, she takes a look and gasps. Bank statements. These. Yeah, he has more in here though, he didn't trust banks much, I can tell. Naruto walked to a wall and knocked, sliding down the wall and over, repeating this over and over, finishing one wall with no results. Naruto, you're not going to find. Aha! Punching the wall, he breaks the plaster and grabs at the safe, taking it and smacking the lock a few times, then the top, rotating the lock to 0, and it popped open. Sweet. Taking out a scroll, he pulled all the contents except one and stored them away, putting the one item in his pocket for later. Taking initiative, Karini helps, they find 4 more chests/safes. Each into their own scrolls. Grabbing the documents back, Naruto puts them in another scroll, and helps Karini up. One last thing, Naruto walks to the desk and smashes it, seeing it served as its own bank also. After sealing up all the contents of the desk, he turned to Karini. Hey, got you a present. Naruto grins big and holds out his hand. Karini walks over hesitantly, and puts her hand under his. Turn around. He watches as she does so and presses himself up against her back again, draping a medal over her chest. Cold, was the first thought to go through her head as she jumped, and he chuckled at her. Yeah, sorry, didn't have time to warm it up for ya. Naruto finally finishes the clasp and pulls her hair up, letting the chain fall under it, and her scent waft up from her hair. Looking down, Karini was shocked. It's beautiful. She looked and saw a white gold chain, 3 jewels on one charm, a rose, with a ruby carved as the main open rose. An emerald made up the stem and leaves, all coated in a diamond pendant, set in the middle. Covered by the elements. Diamond? Keeping the ruby and emerald safe, and it's not in the way either. Naruto, it's beautiful. Thank you? She hugged him roughly and he smiled back. Of course, Karini, something to almost match your beauty. Naruto couldn't help laugh at her blush. Yep, definitely adorable. We need to get going, come on, I can carry you if you want. She nods lightly, and he picks her up bridal style. What, no animal this time? Tiger? Raven? Being daring and carrying me without hiding yourself, huh? Naruto let out a laugh and Karini soon joined him as he jumped out the window and sped through the forest, set on coming to the bridge before too late. Wow, it's already so late, it's dark, how can you see so well? Well, along with turning into animals, I can partially turn, to a point. He looked down at her, and his eyes were the eyes of a white tiger again. Her breath caught, not being this close before, she reached her hand up and stroked his cheek. They're beautiful. And not as much as yours, Karini. Seeing her blush was just getting way too fun. Looking up at the moon, Karini smiled. Somehow this just feels right for me right now, the moon is beautiful, and I have this romantic, sensitive, gorgeous primal man. Has he marked me as his? She, though quizzically knowing animals, once they want one mate, they mark them and keep track of them, keeping them safe even if they aren't the other's chosen mate. Suddenly her blush came back full force. I'm blushing like Hinata, there's got to be something wrong with me. Naruto, stuck in his own thoughts, took on autopilot with his feet, and they made it back in 20 minutes. Deciding it was best not to let the genin or Kakashi see anything, he dropped her off before the forest edge. She mentally pouted but nodded, thinking it was best for now also. Walking to the bridge, they noticed all the clones were there, but no one else. Naruto walked up to a clone and asked what happened. Well, they all tired themselves out and left to rest. We decided to keep working and finish this bridge up while they rest tonight. One said after laying down some concrete. Yeah, the 3 that were with Hinata took her there and are keeping her company. Another said as he saw Karini get a look in her eyes. Alright guys, keep up the good work then, disperse when you're done working. We're heading back too then. A few clones smiled seeing the necklace on Karini, and they left. While walking with Karini, he noticed just how cold it was out for her anyway. She shivered a bit. Smiling, he decided to offer her his cloak. Karini, here, this is warmer than you'd think. He walked up behind her and strapped his cloak to her neck loosely. True to his word, the cloak seemed to melt away her cold. She noticed why it was so cold now. They were almost there, by the lake out back. Naruto, let's stay out here a bit, alright? Naruto smiled at her and nodded, walked down the dock and taking a seat. Karini decided to take a seat on the corner, taking off her sandals and dipping her feet in the cool water. On top of the Tazuna household, a lone figure stands, on watch for the 2 to return. She is happier, he noted as she seemed to laugh at something he said and playfully hit him. A bug came up and buzzed a bit. Shino smiled, seeing over the collar of his coat. Yes, this is a good thing for her, she needs to get rid of the stress. Watching no longer, he dare not impede on their moment, and retreats to the house, getting into his bedroom shared with the other males. What was that for? Naruto asked after she hit him. Oh, nothing, just the fact that you gave me a beautiful necklace. She smiled at him and leaned on his shoulder. Well, you needed some kind of jewelry, he said, a smile in his voice. Shoving him again, she just laughs. Yes, sure. Wrapping an arm around her, Naruto feels her relax into his chest a bit. This does not mean you've made me yours, you know, Karini stated as a fact to him. Laughing, he smiles down into her hair. Of course, if it was, there wouldn't be a challenge in trying to impress you, Karini? Do you want to go on a date when we get to Konoha? My treat, of course. Karini blushed and nodded to him, closing her eyes and relaxing a bit more, taking in his scent. Chapter 2 end. Karini started to wake up and decided she was really comfortable and didn't want to get up. Taking a deep breath and snuggling into her pillow, she noticed a few things. First, she smelt a familiar scent, along with the smell of fresh dew and foliage. Second was the fact her pillow was really warm and was moving a bit. Lastly, she took notice that something or someone was playing with her hair. Noticing her stiffen, Naruto pauses for a moment, before going back to running his fingers through her hair. You know, Karini, staying asleep so long, your team might get worried for you. Hearing this voice, Karini bolted upright, taking in the scenery. They were in the forest, on the edge by the water, but it seemed much warmer than it should be. She noticed the sun just started to raise, and the sky looked beautiful. The last thing that she noticed was the fact her pillow was in fact Naruto. Trying to take advantage of a sleeping woman, Naruto? Grinning, she lets him pull her back to his chest, letting her rest some more. Course not, Kurenai, you just seem peaceful, and your hair is very soft, you know, for a kunoichi, that is. Smiling down at her, Naruto takes in the fact that she's eyeing her necklace with a small gleam in her eye. Yeah, I'm not taking that back, it's all yours, Kurenai. Feeling the warm feeling in her chest again, Kurenai did the only thing her mind told her to do right now, which was hug Naruto close and relax into his chest. Taken aback slightly by her sudden movement, Naruto rests a hand on her side, above her hip, and holds her. You know, you don't seem like the kind up for cuddling like this. Kurenai takes the time to glare up at him, renting her moment. Yeah, well, this is an exception. I'm not usually a cuddly person. Hearing this, Naruto grins. I'm special then. When is everyone going to wake up? Looking at the sky, Naruto takes in the time by the sight of the sun. I'd say maybe an hour. You can stay and rest, or you can go do what you need. Kurenai nods and relaxes, setting her head into the crook of his neck, taking in his scent. I think I'm still tired. Smiling into his neck, she takes a deep breath. Laughing lightly, Naruto nods. Sure, just lay and rest then. By the way, I took us away from the docks so you won't be seen with me like this. Your shoes are on the side of the tree behind me. Seeing her nod, he relaxes, taking in the scent of her hair, and running his hand up and down her side slowly. So warm, Kurenai couldn't keep her eyes open much longer. It's so comforting. I want to just stay here and not wake up. She couldn't believe how she was thinking, but wasn't about to deny how she felt about the situation either. I can wake you up before they get up if you nod off, so don't worry too much about it. Feeling her nod just barely, he could tell she was already starting to get sleepy again. Taking the much-needed break, Kurenai relaxes and closes her eyes, letting sleep overcome her again. Naruto couldn't help but stare at her beauty while she slept, wondering just how lucky he was for this moment. Even if it wouldn't last, he was happy with this. He could tell she liked the necklace, at least a bit, and he was glad. The rose was why he saved it and gave it to her. For his part, he couldn't understand how she was so beautiful and still so dangerous. Ninja's #1 advantage is deception, I guess. Chuckling lightly to himself, he smiles, feeling her breath on his neck. Even if this is only this one-time thing, she seems happy and relaxed, and I don't mind. Feeling his ears perk up, he hears the occupants in the house start to stir and takes it as his cue to wake up the rose on his chest. Being gentle, he shakes her a little. Kurenai, get up, your team is starting to awake. Waiting, with no reply, he shakes her again. Hey, come on, get up, Kurenai. Naruto-kun, you're so relaxing, Naruto-kun? Where did that come from? Naruto thought to himself. Kurenai, you have to get up, unless you want your team to wonder about you being out here and not inside. At this, Kurenai started to sit up a bit. Have a good sleep there, Kurenai? Nodding, she wipes sleep from her eyes and runs her fingers through her hair, letting out a yawn. Seeing her support herself up, Naruto reaches around and grabs her shoes, handing them to her and standing up. Karini yawned again and slid her shoes on, answer his question, albeit a bit late. Yeah, best sleep I've had in a while, even before I left my bed at home. At this, Naruto chuckled and stretched, feeling his spine, arms and neck pop and crack. I feel really refreshed also. Then again, I haven't slept on a bed for a long time. Feeling a weight on her shoulders, she notices she still has his cloak on, and just how warm it kept her. Even right by the water, she can't feel a bit of the air coming from the lake. Hey, you should take your cloak back, you've got to be cold. Grinning, Naruto shakes his head. Nah, I don't get cold very often, if at all. I should be fine, no worries, but I probably should anyway. Walking over to her, Naruto reaches up and unclasps the cloak, letting one side slip off her shoulder and swinging it around to clip onto his neck, putting the hood up to block out the sun. Shivering, Karini noticed just how much cold the cloak was blocking out. Smiling, she takes a step forward and embraces Naruto. Thanks for letting me rest with you, it was nice. And I think I'm going to stay right here and keep warm with you. Grinning, she looks up at him, to see he was shocked. What? It's chilly. Smiling, he wraps an arm around her, letting the cloak cover them both. Yeah, well, come on, we need to get to the house. I'll let you go in the door and I'll sneak in the window on the second floor. Naruto, you can come in the door with me, there's no problem with that. Smiling softly at him, she knew what he thought. She doesn't want to be seen with someone so young by her team. Besides, we can say we went out for a walk before they awoke so we didn't disturb them. Chuckling at her excuse, he smiled and walked through the forest with her. Sure, if that's what you want, Karini. By the way, I have a question. Grinning, Naruto thought about many things that could happen at this, but only one kept repeating over and over, her blushing a deep red. Raising an eyebrow, Karini turns to look at him. Oh, and what would this question be about? I don't know, maybe about something while I was waking you up, something about you calling me Naruto-kun. Grinning, he watched her reaction change over time. First she looked confused, then it seemed to dawn on her. Her face started to turn a light pink until she remembered her dream, and she turned beet red and turned to him fully. Yes, and what about that? The blush seemed to cover her whole face now as she looked at him, stopping them in their tracks, thankfully still on the edge of the forest. Oh, nothing at all. Just wondering where it came from is all, Kurenai. Smiling, he watches her inner struggle and likes it, seeing as her face turned crimson from the conflict. Well, you're just going to have to figure that out for yourself now, won't you? Hiding her blush a bit, Kurenai slid her arm under his cloak and across his waist, raising an eyebrow from him, and started walking back to the house. Tsunami was the first to awaken, taking initiative and getting ready for the day. She did her daily routines and got dressed. Peeking through the rooms, she could tell everyone was still asleep, and she trotted downstairs to start getting breakfast ready for everyone in the house, sighing as she went, thinking of how much money this will cost them. Grabbing out a variety of foods along with plates, bowls, and cups, she set the table and heated the stove up. Seeing as she had a few dirty dishes, she let the stove heat up while she cleaned them, looking out the window fantasizing about the country prospering again once the bring finally gets finished. Sighing contently, she nods, this is just a small sacrifice for the better, referring to the food. Hearing the stove ding, she starts to prepare the food and sets some water to boil for the rice. Finishing up the dishes, she looks out the window to see a peculiar sight that makes her smile happily. Spotting the female jonin, Kurenai, with a man, she sees Kurenai smiling and laughing with him as he holds her. Wondering how cold it must be out, she notices he's not wearing a shirt and blushes, getting a look at his stomach and chest. Well, someone's lucky, that's for sure. Thinking of the jonin and the newcomer, Tsunami starts a special batch of food for them, seeing as they're both up bright and early, unlike the rest of them. Kurenai, I don't think anyone from the two teams are up yet. There's only one person up and they seem to be a civilian. Nodding, Kurenai pulls him a bit closer and smiles, seeing as she got to have just a little more time with him then. Naruto grins and wraps his arm tighter around her as well. Well, isn't this just great? He thought happily with a smile. With a smile on her face, Tsunami made sure everyone was still asleep and set a table in the living room for the two, with their food already done and cooling down. Yeah, this will be nice for them, she thought as she walked back to the kitchen to check the food. Turning to the window, she saw how close they were and walked to the door, waiting a few seconds and opened it, to the surprise of Kurenai and Naruto. And just where have you been, Kurenai? She tried to scold the jonin but failed as the smile came back full force on her face. Well, you see, Kurenai fumbled as Naruto slid away from her, and she noticed the difference in temperature, and mentally sighed. Oh, come now, don't be like that, I'm just teasing, I won't tell your team or anyone. Come now, I've made breakfast. Tsunami giggled, seeing a jonin trip over words like that, and ushered them inside. Tsunami, this is Naruto, he helped us on the mission to protect your father, and is the one helping with the bridge also. He will be going back to Konoha with us and be staying here for the rest of the time we're here, if that's okay. Tsunami smiled and just nodded, giving a small greeting to Naruto. Kurenai just started to take a seat as Tsunami pulled her away. No dear, you and him are eating in the living room, there's no room at the table. Pausing to give a little effect, she leant into Kurenai. And to give you some more time with him. I'm a woman, I know that when you want to be with someone and you can't, just how frustrating it is, so go on. She smiled at Kurenai. Thank you, Tsunami, that was very kind of you. Come on, Naruto, let's go eat. Kurenai smiled and turned to him. Hold on, Kurenai, I'll meet you in there, alright? Smiling down, he saw her nod and walk off. Tsunami-san, was it? Receiving a nod, he continued and started taking a scroll out of his cloak. I would like to thank you, and seeing as you're letting everyone stay here, I deem it fit to give you this before I present this to everyone else. Naruto opened the scroll and let a bunch of cash flow out of the seal. It was all taken from Gato after he passed away. I'm returning almost all of it to the village. Tsunami couldn't help but be stunned. This man killed Gato and is giving them all the money? This was unreal. He just saved the village and he could keep all of it if he wanted, but he was giving it all back to the occupants of this village? The only thing that came to mind was to hug him, which she did, tightly, to the point he could barely breathe. Thank you, Naruto. Kurenai, in the other room, couldn't help but smile, knowing the reason he stayed behind was to give her some of the money taken by Gato. Of course, it was nothing. If there's not enough money, I can donate some also, as a helping hand. Tsunami couldn't help but stare in wonder. Geez, he's so sweet. No wonder Kurenai stakes claims. Grinning, she nodded. It won't be needed, but thanks for the offer, Naruto. Now go eat breakfast with Kurenai, you must be hungry. Nodding, Naruto said his thanks and went to sit with Kurenai, who was patiently waiting for him to return. Sitting down next to her on the couch, she takes this chance to lean against him, and he wraps an arm around her. You know, this is nice, and it looks delicious. Naruto exclaimed as he took in the dishes Tsunami set for them. Breakfast included the following: spiced rice, mixed with some fish which, by the looks of waves, seemed to be a delicacy here. A plate of teriyaki chicken, seasoned with spices from another country, rare in wave. A plate of sweet dumplings, to which Kurenai grinned at. and to top it off was a couple of small potato cakes. Karini smiled seeing as Tsunami went all out for them, with little money to boot. It was very appreciated. Leaning up, Naruto grabbed the plate of dumplings and set it on his lap, grabbing a wooden saban covered with them, and held it up for Karini. Smiling, she took a bite of it, seeing how it tastes, and was amazed at Tsunami's cooking. Seeing her face, Naruto took a whole one off the other end and munched it, savoring it. Watching, Tsunami smiled coyly. Ah, such sweet moments are rare for shinobi if I remember. I hope they can finish and savor the time together before the teams wake up. Hearing the oven beeping, she goes and finishes making breakfast for everyone. These are delicious, he commented, and Karini nods her agreement, taking the rest off the end she already bit. Setting the samban down to save as a treat for after breakfast, Naruto grabbed the bowls of rice and handed one to her. I don't think I could very well feed you that and not make a mess. Grinning at her, as she giggled, he took his own bowl in his hands. Seeing him take a bite and start eating with gusto, albeit his manners are good for eating so fast, she takes a few bites. While this woman knows her cooking skills, maybe I can get her to make me some dishes before we leave. Noticing he finished his rice already, she looks down, seeing how much she has left. Half a bowl, he can wait. Grinning, she finishes off at her own pace as he starts to munch on his potato cake. Seeing Karini finishing off her rice, he grabs the chicken and sets it down in front of them, taking her bowl when she's down and setting it in his, while grabbing their chopsticks from their bowls and handing hers back. Taking a smaller piece of chicken, Karini nibbles at it while thinking over the last day, and looking at the blonde in front of her. In only one day, he seems to be able to do what all the men back in Konoha couldn't, which was get my attention, keep it, and get me interested. He's an interesting one, that's for sure. Maybe he will be the one? Sighs and continues a little more down. Nah, he won't want to stay around, a one-time thing and then he'll leave, or even just use me to get back into Konoha? Oh well, keep it while it lasts, right? Taking in the sight of him trying to eat a good-sized piece of chicken in one bite, she smiles. You won't be able to eat that in one bit, Naruto. Wanna bet? He asks as he raises an eyebrow and takes her challenge. Yeah, what's the wager? Grinning, she leans forward, watching him think it over for a minute. How about if you win, I have to do one thing you ask, and if I win, you have to do one thing I ask? Grinning back at her, he waves the chicken back and forth slowly. Thinking it over for a minute, Karini finally decided to take it. Yeah, you're on. Now what to make him do? Mentally taking a thinking pose, she ponders the idea. Good, then let's see. Watching her lean back with a smirk on her face, he inwardly grins, dislocating his jaw ever so slightly, and took the whole piece in his mouth, swallowing it whole. Now what to make her do? Wiping a little bit of the chicken seasoning from his lip with his thumb, he ponders. How is that even possible? Karini, for her part, was astounded. It was almost the size of his hand for Kami's sake. Damn, now I have to do what he wants. Sighing and sulking slightly, she continues to watch him. I could do that, but it wouldn't be too fair. Well, that's nice and simple. Smiling, he's decided what he wants her to do. Well? What do you want? Karini said playfully as she looked up, the relaxed pose she took after sighing. Impatient are we? Let's finish eating first. Grabbing some more dango, he leaves the last few pieces of chicken for her, having his fill with that one piece. I don't know how snakes do that shit. Raising an eyebrow, Karini finishes off the chicken and Naruto hands her a full stick of dango, both relaxed into the couch, Karini leaning on his shoulder while nibbling her dango. Tsunami, while finishing up her dishes and setting the table, stopped for a second. I feel like a bet was just placed in my house, and someone won. Only 2 people are up. Oh, Karini, gotta watch this. Setting the last plate down hastily, she peeked around the corner watching the 2 shinobi. Finishing their dango, Karini relaxes more into the couch, too full to want to sit uncomfortably. Close your eyes. Naruto smiled at her. Sighing, Karini did so. Wonder what he's going to do. Mentally rolling her eyes, she couldn't deny she was excited a bit. Taking this chance to look at her, he notices her slender legs and couldn't help but blush just barely at that. Just like the rest of her, gorgeous, fits perfectly. Leaning over her, Naruto rests a hand on the couch, on the other side of Karini. What's he doing anyway? I mean, if he's going to do something, he might as well do it. Naruto, after leaning down, bit his lip thinking this over again, but being decided already, he went through with it. Slowly he inched towards her, before sighing. Fuck this. Naruto stopped hesitating and just kissed her, leaning his other hand down by her head. Snapping her eyes open, Karini sees Naruto, and feels Naruto. What, not knowing what else to do, and frankly, enjoying herself, Karini wrapped her arms around him and deepened the kiss a little. Feeling her arms around his neck, Naruto slides one of his arms under her torso, lifting her slightly to him. Closing his eyes, he enjoys the kiss and relaxes. What was I thinking? Nothing to be hesitant about. Mentally grinning, he seems to melt into their kiss. Her lips are so soft. Karini, having similar thoughts, closes her eyes. This is what he wanted. It's not so bad. Letting herself enjoy the kiss, she notes. His lips are soft. I've kissed Asuma a few times, and this is way different. This feeling letting her mind shut off for a bit, she melts into the kiss. Blushing at watching the two, Tsunami stared as the two embraced each other, and both seemed to melt together in that kiss. Seeing as she intruded long enough, according to her blush, Tsunami decided to leave the two alone, and turn off the stove before going to wake her son and father for breakfast. Karini felt, simply, like she was in total bliss for a moment. Feeling Naruto pull away gently, she pulled him back for a few more seconds, before she needed to breathe, and promptly, though hesitantly, let go. Sliding back down to the couch, she noticed Naruto was still leaning over her, eyes glazed slightly. Well, I'd probably look the same, she noted. Well, Karini said, finally able to speak. Nodding with her, Naruto agreed and stayed above her for a few seconds until he heard movement upstairs. To which he grinned and kisses Karini on the cheek before taking his seat and watching her reaction. Karini couldn't stop smiling. She felt happy and stress-free, and she wasn't even blushing from the contact just then. Sitting up, she watched as Naruto picked up the dishes and cleaned up, taking them into the kitchen and washing them quickly. Following after him, she sees him finishing up the dishes, and decides to wrap her arms around his midriff and snuggle into his back, after unfastening the clip for the cloak, letting it fall. Taking in his scent for a few minutes, she sighs, hearing footsteps coming down the stairs. Deciding she was too comfy, she just snuggled into his back more. Smiling to himself, Naruto slows down and re-washes the dishes he rushed through, making sure they're actually clean. Liking the feel of Karini cuddled up to him and resting her head on his shoulder, he tries to take as long as possible to keep her there. Hoa hoa. What do we have here? Tazuna states, walking into the room and sees the two together. Inari, hearing how Naruto gave them a lot of money and killed Gato, came running up and hugged his leg tight. Thank you? You must be the closest thing to a hero. Tsunami walked in behind her son and watches the confrontation as her father eats, and Inari joins him. Drying his hands, Naruto turns around in Karini's grasp and wraps an arm around her. Tsunami-san, you should eat too, you know. Tsunami turned to him. I didn't make anything for me, trying to save what we do have for later in case we need it. Naruto smiled at her and made a clone to prepare her some food, and himself ushering her to sit down next to Tazuna, all the while holding on to Karini. After some time, some fussing, and 2 clones later, Tsunami finally has a dish to eat for herself, composed of a few different foods. Dango, some beef spiced, and covered in rice, which was cooked in a thin layer of grease from the chicken. A small plate of sushi, along with a sauce Naruto homemade. Mouth starting to water, Tsunami turns to Naruto. This looks amazing. Karini couldn't help but mentally nod seeing the food sitting there, before turning back to Naruto and snuggling into him. Lifting a pair of chopsticks, she picks up a piece of beef to taste it, leaving the room silent as they all watched. Chewing a few times, her eyes turned to Starts, and she took a few more pieces, glutton for the food he made, enviously of Karini. Saving the beef for later, she tries a piece of sushi, gaining close to the same reaction after dipping it in the sauce. Grinning while he watched, Naruto barely controlled his laughter at her expressions. Oh yeah, I've lived alone for a while, I know how to cook. Finishing off the sushi, Tsunami returns to the beef and rice with gusto, finishing before even her father finished his food. Lastly, taking the dango between the sticks, she nibbles the edge, eyes turning into hearts this time and munching happily on the dango, eyes closed with the contents sigh after swallowing the first piece. With a few pieces left, she enjoys them slowly and sighs contently when done. I take it you liked it, Tsunami? Exactly how would you rate the food he prepared? Karini asked curiously after seeing her expressions. Looking up from her food, Tsunami gives a mock glare at Karini, before continuing to munch on her dango. Well? Tsunami, how is it? Karini, now on edge, slightly pulled towards Tsunami off of Naruto's chest. Munching slowly, she grins as she finishes the last piece. Damn boy, you know how to cook. Everyone looks at her odd. What? That was the best breakfast I've had since hell I don't even remember. Grinning to Karini as her mouth drops open, Tsunami nods, proving she wasn't lying. Naruto. Yes, Rose? Blushing at the name he called her, she notices Tsunami's grin get bigger. You're making dinner. Karini left no room for dispute, and he just slowly nodded. The teams are waking up Karini. Naruto offhandedly commented and watched as her face relayed a few thoughts. From being worried, to uncaring, back to worry. Finally she sighed and opted for standing next to him, letting their shoulders touch. Smiling at this, Naruto turned to see Sasuke, along with Shino, Kiba and Kakashi were the first to awaken. Looking over at Tsunami, she seemed too content to move. As crowded as the kitchen was, he opted to taking the pots of food to the table himself. Seeing everyone get seated and eating, Tazuna spoke up. Naruto, is the bridge finished yet? Getting looks from everyone at the table, aimed at him, Naruto decided to check, dispelling a clone. Not yet, close though, It'll be done today though, so no worries. Suddenly he froze. Kurenai felt him go stock still next to her. While no one was really paying much attention to him anymore, Kurenai watched. Slowly a faint giggling could be heard, which got Kakashi and Kiba to look at him. Then it went on for him to slightly bend over holding himself, which now got the attention of Shino, Tazuna, Hinata and Tsunami. Finally he just burst out laughing, which got everyone else to look like he was crazy and look down at their food to see if something was wrong with it. Naruto, what's wrong? Hinata asked simply, putting everyone's thoughts into words. And haha, nothing, hahaha. Sighing heavily, Naruto regained himself slightly, and began looking around. What? Can't have a hysterical fit without people staring at you. Well, if you saw it you would be laughing too. This got everyone to raise their eyebrow, even the Uchiha. Naruto, just tell us what happened please. We're all tired. Kakashi spoke, pulling out his orange book. Yeah, come on Naruto, tell us. Kiba said enthusiastically, with Akamaru barking along. So what was it, Naruto? Shino asked stoically as normal. Grinning, Naruto shifted to get comfy. Sure. Well, you see, my clones were out working and I just dispelled one that was apparently holding some tools. When he dispelled, the tools fell bouncing down and almost hitting another clone, who in turn got pissed and started yelling, taking out and throwing a hammer at a clone that was behind the first one. The clone ducked only for another clone to take it, which had a bag of cement. Suffice to say, the cement dropped onto the clone, who moved just enough for the bag to fall off from him before he dispelled. Down the ladder he was one, and onto another clone's foot. Naruto stopped for a minute, seeing a few people giggling. The clone seemed to toss his pickaxe in the air, which another clone saw and was running to dodge it, but ran off the bridge, into the rapids, dispelling. The axe fell onto another clone, splitting its head open and making him fall off his ladder onto some uncemented rods. A clone that was watching didn't realize he was walking and fell off the bridge, trying to grab onto the edge, and grabbed another clone, flinging him down below the other. Even Sasuke started laughing at this, along with Sakura and Kakashi, who set down his porn. One clone seemed to be daydreaming and missed all of this as the clone that was flung down threw his shovel, slamming into the clone's head, which dropped a kunai he was using. The kunai cut a rope that flew across the bridge, dropped a weight onto a clone, slid through some areas it was supporting, causing a bunch of supports to fall, and finally dropped down a large sharp piece of metal. All the while 3 clones watched the rope and didn't move, until the fact they saw the metal coming down, which cut them in half. They looked at each other and started to slide apart, dispelling from the cut. Now everyone was laughing, albeit not as hard as Naruto, while Kiba was. Naruto. You need to keep your clones under control, don't you think? Kurenai giggled out. Yeah, maybe. So old man, when do we go and finish that bridge? Turning to Tazuna, he let the laughter fade and waited for his answer. Ha, well kid, I think we should start soon enough, the sooner the better, right? Nodding, Naruto stretched, hearing his neck and arms crack, along with his back. Ready whenever, I'm going to warm up. Anyone want to join me? Asking, he watched as Shino stood up along with Hinata, Shirin, and Kurenai straightened up. Grinning, Naruto took stride ahead of them. Well then, let's go. Naruto started walking out with Kurenai behind him and the other 3 coming out, talking with one another. Let's go down by the lake, I can get some training in and you all can train a bit. Getting nods from everyone present, Naruto sets off at a normal pace, just jogging through the backyard to the lake. Keeping up with him, Kurenai thinks on what he might be training on, while thinking up a few exercises for the genin. Shirin talked quietly to Hinata and Shino seemed to just watch over everyone. Naruto could feel Shino watching him, squashing the need to look back and see what he wants. Naruto leaps over to the edge of land. Well then, Kurenai, take the genin if you're going to train them. Seeing her nod, she calls them all over to her, walking a bit deeper in the forest. I'll be right there, Kurenai-sensei. Shino commented to his team leader, who nodded and walked off. You want something, I'm assuming, Shino-san? Smiling politely, Naruto takes a seat by the lake and motions for him to join. Yes, I would like to talk to you about last night. Shino notices him stiffen slightly but watches as Naruto just grins. Yes, I saw, not too much to intrude, but Naruto-san. If you're going to try and win her heart, then you need to take care of her. She's my sensei, and we're all like family on our team. Shino said seriously, watching Naruto, who took on a serious expression. Shino, please don't imply that I would hurt Kurenai. She's a good person, and if by chance I get with her, then I'm not one to mess things up. I'll take care of her, you can count on that. Watching Shino nod, he lets out a small smile. I haven't had anyone close to me like Kurenai is, not even relatively close, and I'm going to treasure it if by chance we have a relationship. If we don't, then it's fine, there's no loss and there's nothing to fuss over. Naruto swore he could see a smile on Shino's face. That's good, Naruto, I just wanted to make sure. Now what are you training with anyway? Grinning at him, Naruto stands up. You know how to water walk yet, Shino? Seeing the boy shake his head, Naruto smiles and lectures him about it. Give it a try, Shino. I suggest shallow water though. I'll be doing some training over in the middle of the lake. If you need me, just send a Kaikachu bug over. Shino smiled, seeing he didn't mind the bugs, and nodded to him while walking off to a shallower part of the lake. Naruto, after watching Shino a bit and chuckling at his misfortune, made a few hundred clones. You 200 start the new chakra exercise, the other 100 start up on mastering more jutsu, you 100 go find some animals that I haven't met yet. You 400, well then, that's all that's left? Sighing softly, Naruto smiles. Come at me with all you got. Jumping onto the water, Naruto gets into a stance that most wouldn't know. 10 clones came at a time, one cleaving a right hook over his head, and another sweep kicking his leg out. Letting the kick hit first, Naruto rolled with it, letting the roll grant him absence from the hook above his head. Landing in a crouch, he stabs forward, killing the clone that tried to kick him. Throwing his other arm out, he grabbed the clone's leg and threw it into the oncoming horde, taking out 3 more in the scuffle. Taking on the next group, 3 clones attacked, one with a clawed hand, one with a kunai, and the last went for a simple roundhouse. Spinning quickly, Naruto hit the kunai with one of his own, pushing the clone's kunai into the clawed clone, stabbing it through the wrist. Defying some laws of physics, Naruto spins the other way without slowing down, and grabs the roundhouse, following through and slamming it into the clone with the kunai. 5 down, 395 to go. Grinning, Naruto jumps towards the horde, beginning to dispel clones left and right. Karini, after setting her genin to work, minus Shino, went to see just what he was up to. Instead, she found a literal ocean of Naruto, seeming to puff up every few seconds in smoke. Watching carefully, she could see a single swift-moving Naruto. Assuming him to be the real one, she continued to watch, almost mesmerized by the fluid motions he was going through. Shaking her head slightly, she looks over to see Shino fumbling with the water walking. Surprised he's learning it without the team, she can't help but smile at the fact that obviously Naruto and him got along. Walking up, Karini gave him some pointers. Shino nodded and they both turned to hear a splash of slight profanity, if that's slight. Motherfucker! Got a lucky shot, huh? Grinning, Naruto grabbed at a branch that was broken from his fall, threw it into the water and charged chakra through it, making pieces fall off until it looked like a simple boken. Shooting forward, with a wooden blade, Naruto seemed to whiz by the clones and they just blinked, 6 straight in a line that were charging. Seeming to turn around, all the clones looked down and started to slide apart, before dispelling. Bitch, that's what you get. God, I'm insulting myself, what have I come to? Striking a thinking pose for a second, he grabs onto a fist aimed for his head, stabbing his boken through the clone's heart. 325 left. Smiling to himself, Naruto took off again, sword in hand. Kakashi, where did Jiren go? Sakura asked quietly, not wanting to disturb her sensei too much. Pulling his porn down ever so slightly, he looks at the spot said teammate was, and shrugs. Hell if I know, probably went with Karini, no big, he's safe with her also. Akamaru barked as he ran through the room, eliciting a squeak from Sakura, a grunt from Sasuke, and a giggle from Kakashi. He seems playful today, Kiba. Tired of being held inside? Tsunami asks as she relaxes on the couch after that meal, deciding even SHE needed breaks sometimes. Yeah, he loves the outdoors, I'm with him on that. I'm gonna take him for a walk, be back later. Kiba yelled as he walked out the door. Whatever you say, Kiba. Tsunami nonchalantly commented as her eyes closed, and she sighed deeply. Oh come on, Tsunami, the food could not have been that good. Earning a glare to her father, Tsunami smiled and grabbed a small piece she saved. Try me, was all she said, and handed him the piece of dango. Everyone seemed to come to alert at this, and watched with high interest. Rolling his eyes, Tazuna bit into it, not expecting what had happened. For minutes nothing happened. Suddenly Tazuna yelled, not loud but enough to make the genin jump and Kakashi to look up from his book more than he was already. Dear Lord! This is amazing! Scarfing down the remaining dango, Tazuna soon joins his daughter's state of mind and relaxes into the chair. Damn right, Dad, that boy knows how to cook. Watch your mouth, Sunshine, Tazuna reprimanded, with no force behind it, making Tsunami want to laugh. After the genin finished their exercises, they joined Shino and Karini in watching Naruto, who had by now removed his cloak, to which Karini grabbed up quickly, to the surprise of Shino as the others didn't arrive at the time. Folding it on her lap, she can slightly smell his scent wafting up. Nature-like, just like everything around them, but a sweet smell to it, that she could only explain as simply, Naruto. Everyone watched in fascination as he moved silently and fluidly between moves, dispelling clone after clone, thinning the crowd as time passed. Karini watched while just thinking about the past day and morning, how someone like him, a complete stranger, can just come into her life like this. She liked it, she won't lie, but it seemed a little off to her. Shrugging it off for later, she watches as he dispels the last clone and cuts chakra off to his feet, letting him drop down into the water, making a large splash. Hinata was awed, as was Shirin, to a higher degree. Shino actually looked impressed, which was impressive in itself. Kurenai seemed to just smile and enjoy the show he put on, slightly amazed at his skill level. Standing them all up, Kurenai leads them closer to the riverbank. No one saw him come up and just sat, waiting. After a few minutes, Kurenai decides she's worried enough and walks out onto the water herself to look for him. Mistake 1. Once she got to the center of the lake, Naruto jumped up, tackling her into the water and letting their bodies fall together deep under the surface. Grinning as she opened her eyes, Naruto took this moment to add wind chakra around them, letting the water be pushed away and a bubble of air forced down around them. Naruto, that wasn't funny. Kurenai turned to see Naruto giggling and glared at him. Stopping the giggles, Naruto went up and embraced her, noticing she's soaking wet, but grabs her anyway. Sighing, letting him grab onto her, Kurenai giggles slightly and leans into him. Mistake 2. Naruto let the water around them fall as he kissed her gently on the lips as the water pushed them up. Kurenai for her part latched onto him to stop from being pushed away and relaxed in his kiss. Last mistake. Naruto let them float up as the water broke and let air rush to them, telling them they hit the surface. Kurenai shivered and pulled him in closer as he broke the kiss. Taking in the scene before him, Shino couldn't be more surprised. Looking over, he takes notice that Hinata and Shirin also noticed. Glancing back, he could see Kiba, across the lake, walking Akamaru and taking note of the scene also. Looking back at the lake, he sees Naruto, holding onto his sensei, while she clings to him, both soaking wet. They just ended the kiss, and he could see his sensei close her eyes in content. Naruto smiles slightly while closing his eyes. Shino can see that they're both happy with each other. Taking a moment, Shino pulls out a camera and takes a picture, seeing as how the sun is reflecting off the water, just enough to make the scene look serene and peaceful. Hinata just sat down by Shino when the water exploded outwards, raining drops along her and the other genin. Looking up, she saw her sensei and Naruto kissing. Taking the decency to blush, she couldn't look away. The water glistening on them and the sunlight reflecting from the drops made it look gorgeous. Her eyes wouldn't move away from her sensei, watching her kiss the man that helped them defeat an A-rank missing nin and his apprentice. She's so lucky, Hinata thought to herself and sighed, wanting someone like that for herself. Shirin stared, taking in the sight, more than a little confused. Seeing the other team's sensei kissing the man that saved their lives, he seemed nice enough, and she held him tight and didn't let go. Staring, Kiba couldn't take his eyes away from the scene. His sensei is kissing that guy that helped them. What does he think he's doing? Taking advantage of my sensei like that? Growling in anger, Kiba launched across the water, being one of few not seeing Naruto's sparring arrangement. Touching the water, Kiba initiated Getsuga, spinning like a whirlwind right towards the one defiling his sensei. Opening his eyes to the splashing of water and violent waves of air, Naruto notices the tornado coming at him. Changing his eyes to a raven's, he can clearly see Kiba inside. Sighing, he performs one-handed seals, creating a hardened wall of water between the two of them. Kiba, unable to turn fast enough, slammed into the wall, in which encased him and stopped his movement. By this time, Karini opened her eyes to the sight of Kiba's head sticking out of a wall of water, which jiggled above the water like jello. Abruptly sighing, she shakes her head. Kiba, what are you doing? Almost cutting her off, he starts to yell. Sensei, he was kissing you. I couldn't let him violate you like that. This causes Naruto to raise an eyebrow, taking this as an alpha wolf looking over his pack. Yes, Kiba, he was kissing me. I let him. Kiba looked down, slightly shamed. I mean, I'm sure it didn't look like he was forcing me, did it? He shook his head at her inquiry. Okay, well, Kiba, if something like this happens again, wait, and ask later if it doesn't look forced. He nods again, and Karini looks over at the shore, seeing the other three genin sitting there, Shirin with a puzzled look, Hinata with her mouth slightly open and blushing, and Shino looked oddly approving. Well, hell, they all know now, no use hiding it, I guess. Oh well, would have happened anyway, might as well sooner than later. Naruto calmly released Kiba into the cold water. The splash hit Karini, reminded her it's cold, and she clutched onto Naruto, who laughed along with everyone on the bank of the lake. Oh, funny, huh? I'll show you funny, Naruto. Grinning, Karini pushed him under and swam down to him, pushing him down as they both spin around, mouths open. If they had air, they'd be laughing. Pushing her up, Naruto watches her resurface and try to see him below the rippling plain. Coming up with a plan, Naruto pumps chakra into his feet as he touches the bottom of the lake. Breaking the face of the water, Kiba takes an air and swims over to the other genin, which Akamaru already ran to and was sitting on Hinata's lap. Grabbing the ledge and hefting himself up, he shakes, showering the others with the water from his clothes and hair. Shino holds up his arm, blocking his face, along with Shirin. Hinata was holding Akamaru, who for his part, shook off the water that Kiba put on him, causing her to squeal and jump as the water pelted her. Karini watched and smiled at the team as they all laughed it off. She started to swim to the bank, eager to dry off, or snuggle into Naruto's nice, dry, and relaxing cloak. Grinning at the thought, she tries pulling herself up to stand on the water. Watching from below as Kurenai gets up onto the plane of water, Naruto pulls down another bubble of air. Noticing she finally got on top of the water, he launches, flying through the water fast enough to leave a trail of emptiness before the water caved in on the tunnel. Grabbing Kurenai on the way up, he uses wind chakra to cut air resistance, and fly up higher with her in his arms, and the speed drying them a bit. The genin watched slightly amazed that he jumped that high, even through the water, and with another person along with him. They watch as he somehow slows his descent, and they land in front of the genin, still wet but not as soaked. Grinning, Naruto pushes chakra through his body and the water repels him, pushing off and falling to the ground with a small splash. Doing the same to Kurenai, she notices a very weird sensation. As his chakra moves through her, she feels like the air around her is pushing down on her from every direction, not much but noticeable. Water falls off her as she sighs, the coldness leaving her, goosebumps forming on her exposed skin. Kiba-san, stand please. Kiba looks up and scowls but obeys and waits, as Naruto dispels the water from around his body also. They're better? Naruto smiled at him and Kiba couldn't help but lose his scowl and nod. Kurenai, who was still cold, claimed the cloak as her own and wrapped it around her, oblivious to the chuckling of Shino. Looking up and noticing the time, Naruto decides to head up to the house and get the bridge builder to check out the bridge. Alright everyone, let's head back to the house and see how the bridge is going. We might be able to leave tomorrow morning. Everyone stood up and stretched, Kurenai keeping the cloak and pulling it away from Naruto when he went to grab it, causing him to smile and turn away, letting her have it much to her delight. Naruto takes point on the walk, with Kurenai to his side, Shino next to Shirin and the last two together, each with their own conversation between each other. Kurenai decides to grab Naruto's hand and entwines her fingers with his. He looks down, then turns his attention to her eyes, and smiles at her before tightening his fingers a little. Smiling, Kurenai falls into step with him, and they make their way back to the house with everyone in tow behind them. Shino looks up seeing his sensei grab for Naruto's hand, smiling seeing them both happy, especially Kurenai. She was like family, and she's been stressed out lately, with the team and missions, along with Asuma bothering her. Turning, he continues the conversation on the Kaikichu bugs with Shirin, who seemed a bit interested in them. Hinata looks up and smiles with a little bit of jealousy but lets it go as she sees her sensei smile, one that was serene. Kiba noticed her grab his hand and just sighed. Turning back to Hinata, he looked around noticing she disappeared. Looking up, he noticed she went up to their sensei. Taking a few extra steps, he weaves himself into the conversation with Shino and Shirin. Kurenai-sensei, you seem cheerier than normal. Naruto heard this and grinned, while Karini blushed and looked over at Hinata. Do I? Getting a nod from Hinata, Kurenai thinks it over. Yeah, I guess I seem better than normal. And sensei? Gaining her attention, Hinata continues. What about Asuma-sensei? Kurenai flinches ever so slightly, while Naruto mentally sighs, and loosens his grip on her hand a bit. Not going unnoticed by the red-eyed beauty next to him, who also sighs and turns back to her student. Well, we were never together, only dated. Even so, he bugged me too much, it got annoying after a while. A date once in a while wasn't so bad, but we never hooked up. Hinata nodded but Kurenai continued, for Naruto's sake. And he'll just have to deal with it somehow, I guess. There wasn't much between us, and that wasn't about to grow anytime soon. Raising her hand with Naruto's interweaved in it. Besides, as you can see, I think I found someone else. Asuma can do the same. Kurenai didn't once look at Naruto, besides his hand of course. Hinata smiled. She made her sensei explain that specifically so Naruto wouldn't be too caught off guard when they go to the village. Moving back, she enters the confrontation with the other genin. Kurenai looked up at Naruto and saw his face start to soften slightly, as it had hardened when he heard about Asuma. Did he think I was using him? Tightening her fingers around his hand, she felt him do that same, albeit not as much as she did. Looking forward, Naruto notices the house come into view. Gently he pulls his hand away from hers, but she tightens her grip on his. When he looks, she shakes her head while opening the door and letting the genin in first. Following the genin, she pulls the boy attached to her hand along with her, and he shuts the door behind him. Entering the kitchen, no one was inside. The team moves into the living room where everyone is seated. Tsunami and Tazuna are in the same places as before, relaxing and watching the rest of them. Kakashi is sitting in a chair reading his porn as normal. Sakura is next to Sasuke on the floor, Sasuke looking at a scroll, and Sakura reading a book she brought along with her. All is quiet until Karini and the genin walk in chatting along with one another. Tsunami looks up and sees the two holding hands and smiles. Hey old man, let's go check the bridge, see if you want anything else done with it, or if it's finished. Naruto announces and watches as all eyes turn to him. Tazuna stands up and stretches as Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura keep staring. Eyes travel down his arm, to his hand. Connected to Kurenai, Kakashi blinked and along with his students followed the arm up to Kurenai, who looked a bit uncomfortable but otherwise fine. They noticed the cloak she wore and how she seemed more relaxed. Kakashi dropped his porn, Sasuke dropped his jaw, and Sakura just stared. The Ice Queen is with him? I mean, he is Minato's son, but oh whatever. Kakashi picked his book up and continues his read. He got someone like her. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke scowls. How is he so powerful? How can he get what he wants? Damn it, I'm an Uchiha, I deserve to get what I want. He's with Kurenai-sensei now? Does that mean he's better than Sasuke? She thinks on this for a bit, and shrugs, going back to reading. Yeah, let's go check the bridge, brat. Tazuna smiles and follows Naruto out of the house, along with Kurenai and Kakashi, who told the genin to stay behind as they'd be back in a few. On the way, Kakashi read his porn and Tazuna was talking with Naruto about visiting once in a while if he could. Kurenai was watching ahead as the clones seemed to be finishing up. Hinata lays down on the chair Tazuna had and notices it was still warm, grabs a blanket and snuggles up. Kiba and Akamaru take to the floor on a blanket, and the puppy curls up next to the boy. Shino sits down by Tsunami's feet and converses with his bugs and low buzzing noises. Shirin takes a seat by his teammates, and pulls out a scroll he got when he was younger, reading up on his bloodline and sighing at how he doesn't have it yet. Sasuke drops his scroll and looks up. What happened out there when you guys were out? Shino was the first to respond. Not that it matters, we trained a bit, and had a nice walk, along with a relaxing rest. Sasuke looks over at him and scowls. Yeah? Well, you must have seen him train, what did he do? Shirin takes his chance to speak up. From what we could see, created a few hundred clones and had an all-out brawl, them versus him. On top of water no less, he then took a dip in the lake. Continuing his reading, he could feel Sasuke's gaze on his skull. What? Sasuke could do that no problem, he's nothing special. Sakura offers her 2 cents, and almost everyone glared at her. Well, then he also grabbed Kurenai-sensei, and they both seemed to have a good time underwater, evidence from their laughing. Hinata commented and Sasuke swiveled to her. He's one hell of a guy, stopped me dead in my Getsuga, one-handed seals no less. Long as he takes care of her, I don't mind him with our sensei. Kiba smiles at this and Sasuke turns to him, growling. He can't be that strong, he's not that much older than us. Sasuke fumes and picks up his scroll, intent on figuring out this jutsu before they left. Tsunami picks up a book that Naruto seemed to have dropped before they left to train earlier. She opens it to the inside cover and notices it's a bingo book for IWA, Kumo, AIM, Kusa and Kiri. Everyone in this book is in all of the others, and have a huge bounty on their heads. Turning to a bookmark page, she looks at it, and almost drops the book, catching herself at the last moment. There in the picture stood a cold and stoic-looking boy, with a cloak and pants, silver with black flames and red trim, along with 2 belts, forming an X in front of his pants. Taking the time, she started to read the entry. Name: Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Alias: Nature's Wrath. Status: capture or kill on sight, if alone, flee. Description: blonde, shoulder-length hair. Silver pants with black flames and red trim. Definite whisker marks on face, 3 on each cheek. Belts crossing over pants makes X. Black cloak, whirlpool crest holding it closed. Abilities: seems to be able to use every element, but cannot combine them. Can turn into animals that he has met and studied, or killed. Ninjutsu: high jonin in all categories. Taijutsu: low jonin. Genjutsu: mid chunin. Kenjutsu: high chunin. Fuinjutsu: mid jonin. Bounty: 20 million ryo. Reason: destroyed 3 villages within Kumo. Took out a hunter team in all villages. Took out half of IWA, no casualties. Son of Yandame Hokage of Konohagakure. Killing the Yandame Mizukage. Tsunami couldn't believe it. Naruto? A criminal? Or was it the other way around? Were the villages the criminals, and Naruto taking care of it? Either way, he helped them, she doesn't care. Closing the book, she hides it away from everyone else, and sighs, getting another piece of dango. Reaching the bridge, Tazuna looked on in awe. It took him a day to do what his hired help could do in a week. This looks great. I'd say there's only a few things that need to be added, but other than that it's done. Tazuna smiled as he looked over at Naruto, who beamed at the praise. Well, tell me what to add and I'll do it while we sleep. Tazuna shakes his head. No, sorry Naruto, but this is something I want to do with a few helpers from the village. Grinning, Naruto nodded and released all the clones. Karini took the chance to go to the bridge and look over the edge, down and into the face of the water. So Naruto, you're heading back with us to Konoha, correct? Kakashi put his porn back and conversed. Sighing, Naruto nods. I suppose it's about time I head back there. If things don't end well, I can just leave again. Sparing a glance at Karini. Or I'll stay, for one reason or another. Kakashi, noticing his glance, keeps quiet. That should relieve the Hokage. I'll send a messenger ahead to alert him. Naruto interjects. Actually, keep it a secret. I want to surprise the old man myself, if you don't mind, Kakashi-san. Shaking his head, Kakashi smiles under his mask and looks over the water, seeing the sun starting to set in the reflection. Well, the bridge looks great. Coming back from checking the other side. Let's go back home. You probably want some rest, and I don't want to be out here long. Tazuna started walking back to the house, and everyone followed in tow. Pulling the door open, everyone dropped off their shoes and went to the living room, which seemed a little crowded, until Tazuna brought in a few more chairs. Kakashi, Kurenai and Naruto taking the chairs, with Shirin taking the last one, leaving Kiba, Sasuke and Sakura on the floor. None caring about losing the chairs. Kakashi set his head on his hand and looked over everyone. How about introductions for the new addition to our group? It will pass some time, maybe we can chat about some things. Slowly he stopped, noticing everyone staring blankly at him, excluding Naruto, who pulled out a scroll and started writing in it, taking a thinking pose every few minutes. Well, we could do something more fun, telling stories for example? Like scary stories? Or Kakashi shut up again, noticing everyone's eyes now looked dull. Naruto seemed to jump slightly and scribble furiously, gaining a few people's attention. Looking up, he sees a few people looking at him. What? Did I disturb your storytelling? Grinning, he watched as a few scowled and Sakura went far enough to throw her book at him. Whoops. Keep your things to yourself, Pinky. Naruto coldly states and goes back, finishing up his scroll and setting it away with a smile. Sakura slides up to Sasuke and watches him read, to which amazingly the Uchiha didn't move away, too engrossed in the scroll. Sighing, Naruto relaxed more into the chair, slumping and setting his head onto his hand, staring out the window across the room. Kakashi pulled out his book and kept reading, a faint blush on his face. Kurenai snuggled into the cloak that she still had on, and seemed to curl into herself on the chair. Tazuna fell asleep on the chair, along with Hinata in hers, and Kiba with Akamaru. Tsunami fell asleep also, curled up with Shino, who was either asleep or very still, and didn't look too uncomfortable. Shirin seemed to be trapped in his book and didn't want to be disturbed. After looking around, Naruto looked at the time, and noticed, since they got back from the bridge, that time had flew by. It was almost 10 at night now, and they got back before 7. Time flies when you're staring at people, any? Naruto stood up and popped his neck, back and shoulders, eliciting a sigh from his lips and getting the attention of Kurenai. I think I'm going to bed, for anyone who's awake enough to listen. Turning and walking up the stairs quietly, he takes to an empty room, setting up a bed, setting down a pillow and yawning before laying down on the blankets he set. Contrary to what he would normally do, he grabbed a blanket and pulled it over himself, just liking the feel of a cloth around him as he slept. Creating a clone to turn the light off, he tried to get comfortable. Unfortunately, he couldn't drift to sleep for a while and decided to lay awake staring at the ceiling. Thinking on the last few days, he smiles. He found Kurenai, albeit not really together. He has feeling for her, and hopes she does him. With that thought on his mind, he slowly starts to drift to sleep. Naruto? Kurenai opened her eyes and watched him go upstairs, seeming to mumble something her sleep-clogged head couldn't quite get. Yawning, she sits up and rubs her eyes, unwrapping the cloak, and standing up she notices the cold. Shivering, she stretches and wraps the cloak back around herself. Slowly but quietly she makes her way upstairs and looks in a few rooms, finding them empty. After getting halfway down, she wonders if he even came upstairs at all. Finally reaching the last few doors, she sees one open a crack, and takes the chance of looking in there before giving up. Looking around on the bed, she didn't see him. Sighing, she started to turn around, and spotted a blob on the ground. Taking a closer look, she saw Naruto, and smiled, squatting down and nudging him slightly. Someone just had to wake me up. I was damn near asleep and someone comes up here. Looking at who woke him groggily, he sees Kurenai and lets out a small sigh, being as it's her and not someone else. Smiling, he sits up. Did you want something, Kurenai? She seemed to shift a bit and nod before yawning. Tired? Grinning at her nod again. And you wanted to sleep with me here? Another nod. Naruto scoots over, allowing her room, but she stands up before she got in. Taking the chance to move the cloak, folding it and setting it on a bed. Naruto could see her goosebumps that accumulated on her legs. Taking a quick walk, she turns to the bathroom and changes out of her clothes, leaving her in her fishnet shirt, with built-in bra, black panties and a pair of shorts over them. Of course, she didn't take off the beautiful necklace around her neck. Picking up her clothes, she walks back into the room and sets them on the cloak. A slight blush adorned her cheeks as Naruto watched her slide in next to him, her petite body fitting next to his with room to spar on the makeshift bed. Naruto slid down and rested his head on the pillow, allowing her to situate herself as she sees fit, before getting comfortable himself. Kurenai turned around a few times, not getting too comfy, before sliding up to Naruto, and feeling his warmth. Grabbing him around the waist, she pulls herself onto him, letting his warmth fill her also. Looking up, Naruto blushes slightly, seeing her chest slightly push up from her shirt, being as it's pushed against him. Turning his attention to her face, she raises an eyebrow at him and giggles when he blushes a bit harder. Laying her head on his chest, she rests an arm across his stomach, letting it rest on his hip, parallel to his waistband. Her other hand wrapped around under his neck. His arms instinctively went around her, one on her upper back, and the other on her lower back, in the small arch she created by laying on him. Her shirt, he noticed, rose up slightly when she laid on him, so his hand was touching her lower bare back. Smiling, Karini found a way to look up at him, moving her hand a bit and stroking his whisker marks gently with her thumb and forefinger. Slowly, with increasing volume, he began to purr, and ever so slightly rub against her hand. Giggling, Karini watched for a few minutes, before yawning and resting her hand back on his waist. In turn, he moves a few strands of hair from her face, and tucked them behind her ear as she closed her crimson eyes with a smile. "Good night, Naruto-kun," she mumbled, and Naruto smirked. "Good night, Karini." She barely noticed how he didn't use a suffix, and was slightly disappointed, for the few seconds it took for her to fall asleep anyway. Naruto smiled and watched her sleep for a little bit before taking to sleep himself and letting it claim him. The only things to be seen were houses, all blue, with a symbol on every house. A fan, half red and half white. Walking through the complex was a small boy, no older than 5, blonde-haired, tattered clothing. "Leave now," a hushed voice said, and the boy quickly spun around, but seeing nothing, the boy just kept walking down the streets. "Now you must leave, before anyone sees you go." The boy spun faster this time, on alert, but nothing was there, just darkness. "I can't find a place to keep safe, I need to run. Run or die, and I will not die, not to these people, not the ones in this village, my supposed home." The boy ran deeper into the complex, seeing red dots throughout the area as he runs. The dots seemed to glow as he passed them, they followed him. Launching into a fallen-over barn, or shack, the boy huddled into a corner and sat, pulling a dirty cloth over him, and watched for a minute before his eyelids shut themselves and he was out. "I told you it would be too easy, Fugaku." So you had. "Good work, Shubi, get off to your mission now, leave the rest to me." The smaller one left and tore out of the complex to carry out his mission. Meanwhile, the older one, Fugaku, took to bending over the boy. Soon, boy, soon. Grabbing the boy, he dragged him into a basement of the closest house. Later in the night, few that listened close could hear screams of pure fear and pain. Mostly it was confined in the walls of the complex, but one red-eyed shinobi that wasn't part of the clan could hear, as she was walking home from dropping her friend off. Wanting to see what it was, but not willing to go into the complex, the woman took to the street that was a faster route to her house. Karini woke up with a start, not knowing what she just saw. She was sweating and breathing hard. Taking a minute, she walks to the bathroom and washes her face, letting the cool water drain away the nightmare. Back in the room just feet away, Naruto was tossing and turning in his sleep, mouth slightly agape, breathing heavy as pain contorted his face. No, what did I do?" Struggling, the blonde boy couldn't get out of the straps holding him down. No matter how hard he tried, the man above him just watched from the window as others were huddled around him. He couldn't see much beside heads around him, he could feel. Oh, he could feel all right, the blades that pierced his chest, his stomach, one in each leg. The wires that cut at his wrists and ankles as he struggled even more ferociously, animal instincts kicking in. The liquid that seemed to slowly drip over and over on the middle of his stomach, the other liquids that seemed to flow through tubes into his body. He could feel them, as fire in his blood, coursing through his veins. Just finish it. If we can change that ability he holds, maybe we can harness it. As of now, there's little he can do with it. Hopefully we can change that, in many different ways. A commanding voice said sternly from above them. Nodding, 2 of the figures in the room took out scalpels and started to pour liquids into certain parts of the boy's body. One figure jabbed a rod in the boy's neck, eliciting a scream, and injecting him with a purple-colored fluid. Turning away from the scene, Fugaku looked at a woman in the shadows. "I must thank you for leading the boy here. If there's a way to repay you, I'd gladly help." "There's no need, that demon is the blame for my family dying. He deserves it." The woman's eyes glow violet for a second before she disappears. "Well, I really must thank you sometime, Kushina." Turning back to the only sounds in the house, he watches as they keep cutting and injecting the boy. The boy looked up, only seeing one thing, the deep red eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul, 3 black tomos spinning in each eye. Naruto shoots up from the spot he was laying, sweating profusely, more than his workouts gave him. Leaning his elbow on his knee, he rests his face in his hand. Why now, why this, why? Sighing heavily, he drops back and lands with a thud onto the pillows he set. The thud was enough for Karini to hurry back. She left the bathroom already. Speeding up, she turns into the doorway, light hitting her face lightly as the moon shines. Naruto looks at the sound and stiffens quite a bit, seeing red eyes, not the fact they were almost pure red, but they were the same color. Quicker than she could blink, Naruto was up and in a defensive position, kunai out and ready to strike. Raising her hands, she kneels on the floor, telling him she surrenders. What's going on? Why is he acting like this all of a sudden? Karini thinks slowly as she stares at the man, eyes betraying anything she saw before, promising death. Nah, Naruto, please put the kunai down, she spoke slowly, trying to get him to listen. After a few seconds, his eyes widen, more and more, until he shakily drops to the floor, tossing his kunai back into the wall. Walking on his knees, he slowly moves towards her. Grabbing her face tenderly with one hand, he gasps, and pulls her into a hug she was completely not ready for, pulling her to him. Fast enough that they spun and Karini landed on her back, his face on her stomach as he grips at her shirt. She could distinctly make out him saying "I'm sorry." Slowly a few times, in a hushed voice. He seems so fragile right now. Slowly she grasps him and pulls him close, letting him know it's okay. He fell asleep that night, faster than any other night in his life. Keeping herself up for a while longer, she ponders what just happened, silently swearing to figure it out later. She slides the blanket up, taking a glance at the kunai in the wall, and falls asleep with the blonde boy on top of her. Waking the next morning, Naruto found himself more comfortable than normal, his pillow slowly moving rhythmically up and down. Not wanting to open his eyes, he tries to remember the night before. After a few minutes, he remembered his fear, his hate, the fear in Karini's eyes. Looking up, he finally opens his eyes, finding out just where his face was. Slowly, very slowly, Naruto tried to move away from the woman under him, who pulls him back, as her arms are around his back, fingers entwined, cutting off his escape. Naruto sighs, his head rests on her shoulder, face pressed against her breast. Moving his hand up, he grasps her face gently, moving a few strands of hair out of her face and stroking her cheek softly. He could distinctly see her head move ever so slightly to his touch. Nuzzling? Very cute, Karini, very cute. Naruto laid his other hand across her toned stomach, holding her hip. After moving his hand away from her face, he gently nuzzles into her neck. The sweet smell of roses, along with her scent, is intoxicating. Hesitantly, he kisses her neck, once on her jaw, and another on her cheek. Feeling him move around and try to get up, Karini quickly pulls him down. Fighting down her blush, she keeps up the act of sleeping. Unknowingly, she began nuzzling into his hand as he stroked her. Holding back a shiver as his hand moves to her hip across her stomach, she wonders how her shirt rode up above her belly button. Shaking it off, she feels him pull his hand back and fights back another shiver as he nuzzles her neck, his breath streaming across her skin. Goosebumps slither across her arms and neck as he kisses it, moving up to her jaw. After kissing her cheek, he seems to disappear for a minute before she feels his breath on her ear. "Good morning, Karini-chan, enjoying yourself?" Quietly he whispered in her ear, causing her to stiffen and blush. Opening her eyes, she down at him, head still resting on her upper breast and shoulder. "Yes, I am actually, very much so." Smiling down, she watched him try to sit up, futile as she pulled him back down, causing him to blush, feeling her breast touch more of his face. Looking down, she noticed the built-in bra of her shirt was in its proper place, so she didn't say much, just blushed at the feel of his head pressed against it. "You're cute when you blush, Karini-chan." Karini, for her part, sat up and pushed him down, making him into her pillow. Tossing her leg over his, her waist at his knees, she rests her chin on his chest, staring into his eyes. "What? Don't like calling someone something so affectionate?" "I'm just not used to it, I guess. Never had someone to be affectionate with." Naruto smiled and stroked her hair as she laid her cheek against his chest. "But for you, I think I can make an exception to that." Naruto could feel her smile against his chest. "That's good." Pulling the blanket over them more, Karini rests a hand on Naruto's shoulder, pulling herself up a bit, head now resting in the crook of his neck. Wrapping an arm around her, he contemplated laying here all day, not wanting to get up. Karini sighed, letting herself relax as much as possible, feeling his heat flow throughout the blanket. Closing her eyes, she takes in his scent and breathes deeply, feeling his arms slide around her back tighter. Naruto smiled, seemingly taking to her idea, and closed his eyes also, while letting one hand slide through her hair, gently untangling it. Not many were up in the morning, Tsunami noted, wondering where the whirlpool and Rose are. She noticed that, along with everyone sleeping in the living room, there was two missing, and the doors stayed shut, the windows shut. It could mean only one thing: they took a room. Tsunami did one of the few things she could that morning, went out, grabbed some food, and came home to cook it. Deciding to try and pay him back for the meal, Tsunami made another breakfast, slightly different than the one she made the other morning. Holding it all on a tray, she took to the stairs, trying to find the room they were in. A sigh could be heard, followed by Karini-chan. "I must be lucky to find someone like you." That was Naruto. She made her way down the hall and cracked open the door, seeing Naruto staring at the ceiling with the raven-haired rose on his chest. Tsunami smiles and walks in, setting the food down. Kneeling next to him, she takes a look at Kurenai and couldn't help but be a bit jealous. "I just wanted to thank you for the money you gave us, and that breakfast, it was delicious," she whispered to him. Nodding with a smile, he pulls a bit of hair from Kurenai's face and rests it over her shoulder, letting her neck show, along with the chain of her necklace. "It's nothing really, I'm returning most of the money. In fact, grab my cloak, and I'll give it to you now." Tsunami would have, but she was entranced by Kurenai's necklace. Following her gaze, Naruto grinned when he saw the necklace. "Not too big," he noted. "Yeah, sorry Tsunami, but that was the only thing I wanted to keep from the raid on Gato's hideout." Tsunami just nodded and absently grabbed the cloak, handing it to him, who proceeded to take out the scrolls and open them up. Money, jewelry, documents, bank statements, and more dropped out, falling into neat piles sorted by the scrolls. Tsunami picks up a few things and dropped them, thinking she was crazy for seeing it all. Turning to Naruto, he nodded. "Yes, it's all yours to do with. Give to the village and help prosper." Tsunami had a few tears in her eyes at this and said a very quiet thank you. Naruto smiled and nodded again at her, grasping Kurenai lightly, running his fingers through her silk-like hair. Tsunami grabbed a bucket and put it all in there hesitantly, and put the bucket in the corner. Sliding around Karini, she hugged Naruto. Pulling back, she stood up with a renewed look on how the village was going to be. "You should eat before it gets cold. Come downstairs when you're done. Actually, I think me and Karini are going to stay up here. It's quiet, and we won't have to move." His grin grew as he talked about being lazy. "You're welcome to come back up and chat though whenever you want to, just come knock." Smiling, Tsunami nodded and walked back downstairs, letting the door click behind her. "Hey Rose." No reply. "Come on Kurenai-chan, wake up, food's here." Again no reaction. Smiling, he let her slumber, gently grabbing the pendant and taking a better look at it. Just as he lifted it up from under her chest, her hand shot up and grabbed at his wrist. Looking up, her tired eyes find his and she releases his wrist, blushing. "What was that? I tried to wake you and you're blocking me out. I grab at your necklace, and you attack me?" Grinning, Naruto lets her sit up, adjusting her shirt a bit, leaving the hem above her belly button, exposing her toned stomach. Yawning, Kurenai stretches one arm above her and uses her free hand to cover her mouth. Naruto grins at her. "What?" "Oh, nothing, we should eat." Naruto gestures to the food, grabbing some and handing them to Kurenai and taking a mouthful himself. No, nothing, what was it?" Kurenai set her food down, noticing Naruto somehow finished half his meal already. Swallowing, Naruto responded. "Nothing at all Rose, now eat." Smiling at her, he watches her pout and grabs some food, while he himself finishes up his meal and grabs some tea. "I wonder what it's going to be like, being back there again." Slowly he sips his tea, mind being occupied. Looking up, he couldn't help but smile. "She's great, gorgeous, nice, caring, and she knows about me, I'm sure." Kurenai just ate mindlessly, thinking about finally getting home and telling her friend about this adventure she had. "I wonder how long it will take before she leaves though." Naruto sighs softly and sips his tea again. Kurenai finishes up her meal and grabs her tea, also taking sips of it. Setting down her tea, she grabs his and sets it next to hers. Pulling his arms apart, she slides in between his legs, back to chest, and pulls his arms around her petite form. Smiling, he pulls her tighter and goes to grab his tea. Kurenai-chan, which one is yours?" "I'm not sure actually." Kurenai stared at the cups, identical designs, and close to the same amount of tea left in each. Shrugging, Kurenai grabs one, which happened to be Naruto's. "Oh well, I'll take this one." Taking a sip, she could taste a slight sweet but spicy taste on the glass. Naruto shrugs and grabs the cup, tasting sweetness on the rim. "I think you took mine, Kurenai-chan." "Yeah, oh well." Kurenai sticks her tongue out for a sec and takes another sip, taking in his taste. Naruto chuckles and takes another sip, looking out the window and seeing the sun rays. Staring blankly along with him, they both watch as the sky sifts through colors, finally revealing the sun peeking out over the trees. Setting down his empty cup, Naruto wraps his other arm around her midriff, holding her hips and her back against him. "Anyone seen Kurenai and Naruto yet this morning?" Kiba asked the table, which held everyone but Tsunami, who was laying down in the living room reading a book. Taking a look in a few rooms, he couldn't find them, then strode to the back, started there and going to the stairs. The first and second doors were empty. The third door he opened contained the two he was searching for. Naruto's face was slightly in her hair, cheek on her head, staring out the window across the room. Kurenai, holding her cup of tea, looked over at Shino and smiled, motioning for him to join them. Nodding and sitting next to the two, Shino looked out the window, taking in the gorgeous scene that they were watching. "Everyone was wondering where you were," We'll be leaving in an hour, if you were wondering. Kurenai nodded and Naruto, he noticed, looked a bit dazed. Yeah, that's fine, Shino, thank you. Would you like to stay up here for a while? Naruto politely commented. That would be nice, thank you. Shino let a few Kaikuchu bugs out to stretch their wings. Destruction bugs? Very useful. I've seen another clan like yours, Shino, but not with them. Gaining the other two occupants' attention, Naruto looked at the two sets of eyes. What? There's other clans with insects in them? Of course, you didn't think you were the only clan? No, I've seen bees and spiders also. Shino nodded and watched his bugs take off out the window before coming back and sliding into their shelter. I'm surprised you're not freaked out by this, Naruto. Everyone else usually is. Well, it just doesn't bother me. You're just like Kiba and his dog, companions, and they're like tools, living tools that can think on their own and follow you. They would be a great asset if anyone were to take the time and think about it thoroughly. Kurenai smiled when she saw Shino's face light up a bit at Naruto's compliment. Just saying something so simple, and he made Shino perk up. That's incredible. Though Shino, I did find a flaw in your clan. You rely on your bugs too much, just like every clan on their bloodline. The Uchiha and Huga with their eyes are great examples. The Inuzuka are good, but without their companions not many jutsu can be used. The Akamichi, they eat a lot, making them too slow, even if they use that to their advantage. The Nara in direct sun with no shadow are useless, and they have no taijutsu for them. The lesser clans, though, without actual bloodlines, concentrate more on their own work and power, not that gained by blood, but by sweat. Shino nodded slowly, while Kurenai was stunned. He was right, they all did have flaws, and so easily identified too. Grabbing the trays, Shino got up. Thank you, Naruto. I'll consider trying to find an alternative for that problem in my clan. If you would help me sometime, I would appreciate it. Naruto just smiled and nodded, seeing the Abirame nod and walk out with a warning of a half-hour left. Kurenai sighed, not wanting to get up. Reluctantly she tore from his embrace and stretched her muscles, popping bones around her body, unknowingly making her shirt raise more, giving Naruto a nice view of her back and firm but as her legs stretched out, on her tiptoes. Kurenai yawned again and went to grab her clothes. Naruto intercepted her and gently pushed her against the wall, taking the time to kiss her sensually. Taking the chance, she caressed his cheeks and wrapped a hand around his neck, pulling him closer. Naruto pulled his hands from her shoulders, letting one rest on her neck and the other on her hip. Kurenai opened her mouth, biting down on his like gently, giving him a sultry smirk before pushing him away with a last quick kiss and getting her clothes. Growling, he chased her down the hall until she closed the bathroom door in his face, giggling the whole way. Naruto playfully growled again before going to grab his cloak. Kurenai came out and strode to the room where they were laying, seeing Naruto looking over his belts and cloak. Hey, were about Naruto and Kurenai appeared, in a swirl of wind and rose petals respectively. To leave, Sakura stared at them as they walked up to the front of the group, Naruto not even sparing her a glance. Well, we should be going as soon as possible. We need to report the mission and get ready for anything else the Hokage may want us to do. Tazuna nodded at Kakashi and decided to take a stroll with them to the bridge, grabbing a book on the table. Tsunami and Inari wandered after them. As they walked down the streets, everyone got waves and cheers. Naruto got more so than the rest. This unnerved the Uchiha quite a bit, along with the Pinkette. Arriving at the bridge, there was a cloaked item, huge, about the size of a couple of fridges bunched together. This is our memento to you all for helping us. Tazuna grabbed the cloth and pulled, revealing a statue of Naruto holding Kurenai, along with Kakashi next to them. The genin were all seen slightly behind them all. Under the statue was an engraving, and it read, "To those that helped save this village, and a memorial to the completion of this bridge, and the lifting of Gato's curse. Sharingan Kakashi, Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai, Huga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, Abirame Shino, Yukasa Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Terumi Shirin. Lastly, thanks to Nature's Wrath Naruto Namikaze, for freeing us from Gato, and restoring this village to its prosperous past." Everyone gawked at the statue. How they made this in just one night they'll never know. Even so, they were all more curious about Naruto's alias, Nature's Wrath? Turning to Naruto, Kurenai and Kakashi stared at him, silently questioning him. Tazuna came up and gave Naruto his bingo book back. "You dropped this a while ago, that's how we got your alias." Tsunami wanted it to be added. Naruto nodded and handed the book to Kurenai and Kakashi, opening the book to the bookmark. "I'll explain more later, in the village if you wish." Both Jonin were awed by his status in the bingo book, blinked and nodded, handing it back to him, who put it in his pouch. Deciding Kurenai might not want him around, he thought up a plan. "I'll go search ahead for anything suspicious. I'll meet you all before the forest of Konoha." Before anyone could say anything, he was gone, along with a gust of wind that messed up everyone's hair, even Kakashi's gravity-denying hair. Nothing exciting happened along the way. The two teams saw a few odd arrangements. most likely by Naruto running by. Nothing to be concerned with yet. A few dead animals seemed to be vicious looking. Kakashi had the distinct feeling of being watched but couldn't place which direction to look, so he just left it. No confrontation, no retaliation. Kurenai had been thinking over the nature's wrath, and who he is to her. How she had relaxed and let him in after such a short time. Noon had been able to do that before, not that easily, or at all. Idly she wondered what would happen when they got back to the village, with Asuma and the Hokage, with her friend Anko, or the rest of the teams. Shino was simply contemplating how Naruto was reacting to him, seemingly a great friend. He soon just turned to his bugs and conversed with low buzzes, which got a few weird looks and one freak look. Sasuke stayed brooding about Naruto. The rest just walked, not really talking and taking in the scenery. It was a nice peaceful morning. While enjoying a comfortable walk, Shino allowed his bugs free roam, and Kiba allowed Akamaru the time to run around before getting into the walls of the village again. After what seemed like an hour with no sign of Naruto, Kurenai started to wonder where he could have gone off to. While he hadn't left his cloak, she could still smell his scent on her clothes, on her skin. The forest started to thin, and on the edge they saw what appeared to be a pure black panther, which seemed to be waiting for them on its haunches. 9 foxes swarm around it, as if living fire. When the two teams came into view, the panther didn't seem the least bit fazed. The foxes, on the other hand, acted lividly, causing the whole party to halt. The glowing eyes of the foxes take to each of them, caution evident within them, the will to fight noticeable. Kurenai was the only one to keep walking. The foxes began to growl softly, until the panther silenced them by picking up a paw and letting it fall, a dust cloud poofing up. Hesitant from the growls, Kurenai didn't stop, just slowed and knelt, slowing her pace and slid up to the panther, smelling an intoxicating aroma. Smiling, she pet the panther, who in turn stayed still, but a small smile could be seen. The foxes seemed to dissipate into red smoke and disperse into the wind. Standing, the panther kept up with Kurenai, who was joined by the others. Soon the teams, plus Wildcat, all find themselves up at the gate entrance, Izumo and Kotetsu guarding the gate as normal. Procedural, what's your business? Izumo asked without a care really, just eyeing the panther that Kurenai is petting. It's huge, up to her belly button while on all fours. Staring up with an amused animal smile, the panther notes, Izumo looking at him. Just back from wave, mission successful. C rank turned into an A rank with the turn of Kakashi looked back to see Asuma's team walk up, after finishing a mission just outside the village. Ah, Kurenai, Kakashi, good to see you. The chain smoker just pulled out another cigarette, and lit it taking a drag. Mission went well, I see. Asuma drawled off, taking in the look of Kurenai, along with the panther that seemed to be staring back at him. Taking a surprised step back, he clears his throat. Well, Team 10 back from a mission to find Tora. The two teams groaned and the panther seemed to sweat drop at this. Kurenai, you're looking lovely. Something seems different about you today. Asuma smiled a friendly smile. Too friendly, Kurenai could feel the panther start to get agitated. Yes, well, thank you. Turning to the guards, she made a show of standing up straight and moving her hair, showing the pendant, making sure Asuma saw it before continuing. Can we go in now? We must report to the Hokage. Yes, of course, sorry. Kotetsu smiled and opened the gate with Izumo, letting the 3 teams in. Shikimura took the time to study the panther for all of 3 seconds. The cat in his hands was the main problem. Choji barely glanced at it, leaving the fact that if he didn't disturb it, maybe he would be fine. Ino couldn't take her eyes off of it, the sun glinting off its fur, and a foreign animal she hasn't seen much of, especially in person. She blinked and looked away when she felt the awkwardness of its purple feral eyes, staring back, as if into her soul. She shivered, not liking the idea, and fell in step with the other teams and her sensei. So, Kurenai, how was the mission besides successful? Asuma attempted conversation with the Raven Rose. It was interesting to say the least. Noting she looked down at the panther as she was talking, he glanced at it to watch it look around the city. That's a nice cat you got there. When did you come by it? More like why the hell did it stay? Taking out a cigarette, he lights it up, taking a drag and exhaling loudly. Just on the road, it was following us and so I took it in. Smiling down at the panther, she rested a hand on its head. Noon objected to this. Sakura seemed about to, but Shirin stopped her. Taking note of how she cringed at the smell of the tar-inducing smoke, the panther grinned, noting a rock in its path. A few seconds later it snapped its back paw, barely noticeable, and shot the rock up, hitting the cigarette and sending it into the air. First all was good, walking with the woman he was trying to date, smoking a cigarette, life's good. All of a sudden his cigarette is knocked into the air by an invisible force, sent spinning out of control and landed on the ground, where a civilian walked on it without notice. The hell, Karini noticed the exchange and had to try to help herself from laughing. After composing herself she turned back. What's wrong, Asuma? Motioning to his mouth, index and middle fingers slightly open in a V shape. He slightly pouted, hoping it was a fluke. He grabbed another and lit it, only to find the lighter didn't work. Using a small bit of fire manipulation, he lit it and took another drag. The panther used a bit of wind manipulation and knocked it out from his mouth, shredding it with a flick of its tail. Now Asuma wasn't one to get angry fast, but his cigarettes are his outlet for stress. Take them away and he's a ticking time bomb. Quickly he took another one out and lit it, taking a drag and pulling it from his lips instead of keeping it there. Look, mommy! That's a big kitty, can I go pet it? Can I? Without waiting, the child ran up and went to touch the panther, who used the dust with earth manipulation to cut out the oxygen for the cigarette. Growling softly, the panther stared at the kid for a second. Hold on, you need to show respect for the panther. They hold pride almost like the lions do, so ask him first and be respectful. Karini quickly interjected as the group stopped, taking in the scene, everyone in Team 10 tense, and the others looking curiously. Oh, I'm sorry, kitty, may I please pet you? The child held its hand out and let the panther sniff it, putting up the act. I'm so sorry. He got out of my sight, Cookie, you know not to run off like that, and be careful. The mother scolded her son, worried for his safety with the panther. Looking up apathetically, the panther nudged the boy's hand softly, letting him know it's fine. With a small squeal, the boy set out to petting the cat, scratching behind its ears, and giggling when it purred. Come on, Kuro, we need to go. Kurini's voice split the air. The giggling stopped, but the smiling boy waved at them as they left to the Hokage's office. The panther looked up and gave the equivalent of an raised eyebrow, to which Karini used seals to answer. Just needed a name, don't worry Kuro, it won't stick. Maybe. Karini mentally smiled and laid a hand on the cat's head. The panther just snorted and kept in stride as they walked into and through the halls of the building. Team 7 and 8, mission to wave, the Hokage is expecting us. Karini spoke to the secretary, who nodded and gave the big cat an odd look. Team 10, mission to catch Tora, the Hokage is also expecting us. The secretary nodded again and let them through. Kakashi knocked and heard a low enter, then opened the door. Walking into the top room of the tower, where the leader sat, they all stood at attention. Even the panther sat slightly straighter on its haunches. The Hokage merely glanced at the panther and raised his eyebrow at the show of respect from the wild animal that is before it jumped on his couch and laid down. Hinata looked at the panther and giggled, taking a seat by it and running her fingers through its fur. To which Karini glanced back at her, reminding her of where they were. Sitting up straighter, Hinata kept petting the panther, but looked more professional. Okay, well, first is first, report, in ascending order. The Sandaime ordered and packed his pipe with tobacco. Team 7, led by Hatake Kakashi, mission successful. We encountered an A-rank missing Nin, Zabuza Momochi, and his apprentice Haku. Turning the mission form C to a rank, and are told to be paid as soon as they regain control from Gato, who took over and dropped the country into poverty. Kakashi spoke fluid and calm. Team 8, led by Yuhi Karini, mission successful. Accompanied Team 7, led by Hatake Kakashi. Stated quickly but calm, knowing everything was said except one, and that was a surprise for the old man. Team 10, led by Sarutobi Asuma, mission successful. Tora was caught on the edge of the forest of death. Grabbing the cat, he hands it to the daimyo's wife, who was waiting the whole time, and crushed it into her chest. Legs could be seen flailing around along with the tail, pinned straight. That's what you get, kitty. The panther thought, idly watching the poor cat suffocate. Very good, you're all dismissed. Team 7 and 8, you may have a few days off after your first C-rank mission. Team 10, I will see you sometime tomorrow, I'm assuming? Getting a nod from his son, the Sandaime took a good long drag from his pipe as Team 10 left, along with Kiba, Sasuke, Sakura, Shino, and Shirin. After the door clicked, the Sandaime addressed the rest in the room. I'm assuming you're all here for a reason, right? What is it? Asking professionally, he took a few more drags. What happened to the old man that used to run this village? This Sarutobi seems to be more cold, withdrawn almost. Within the span it took for the man to turn and look out the window, Naruto seemed to appear and took the place of the panther, in which Karini took the seat next to him. Hinata scratching behind his ears, and his arm around Karini's waist. It was at this time that Ichiraku came in the room from the back room, unnoticed by everyone present, to drop off more paperwork. Hey, old man, long time no see, don't I get a hi at least? Accompanied in between his small sentences was a low purring sound as Karini was stroking his whisker marks gently. A few things happened in only a few seconds. First, the Hokage dropped his pipe, and Ichiraku started to scream at the boy, before the Hokage's shattered pipe made its presence. All eyes turned to the Hokage, watching and waiting for his reaction. Slowly, ever so slowly, the professor brought himself to turn around, and just as slowly, his body reacted, first taking a look out of the corner of his eye and gasping. After the first glimpse, he spun half-circle as fast as any shinobi could, taking in the boy on the couch, not even noting Karini and Hinata. Minato? No, he died, that could only mean, oh dear, can it be? And Naruto? Not believing his eyes, the sandame slowly crept forward. Yeah, it's me, long time no see any? A smile crept up onto his face as the old man took Kurenai's place with his hand, feeling to see if it's true. I thought that as long as I met up with Konoha, I might as well come visit or possibly stay. That so far is debatable. After taking a glance at Kurenai mid-sentence, Sarutobi finally took notice of her, eyes widening as the kunoichi blushed deep crimson. And of course, I've missed you, old man. It's been a while. I had to come see you at the very least. Nodding, the sandame knew what he meant. If nothing happened between them, he would have come anyway, if nothing more than to see an old man like me. Smiling, the sandame nodded again and sat back, more cheerful than anyone has seen him for a good 9 years. Well then, my boy, what do I owe this pleasure? Kurenai, Kakashi, and Ichiraku were stumped. The Hokage? Owing pleasure? Just what do these have in common? Just your time, old man, nothing more. I may decide to stay, if that's fine with you. Hiruzen couldn't do anything but smile brightly at this. Of course, I will give you your inheritance, and you can move in there whenever you feel like it. Of course, this means the Hokage was cut off when his secretary came in, took one look at Naruto and blushed. Don't forget the council meeting you were called to, Hokage. It will be starting in about a half hour. She closed the door after taking another glance at the pharaoh man on the couch. Naruto noticed the Hokage's sigh. Old man, what happened to you? You were the Hokage, now you're like the council's bitch. Everyone gasped at his analogy, but the Hokage knew he was right. I mean, come on, they have more power than you now. And it's all cause of your laziness. You forget, this is a shinobi village, not some ransacked civilian place. You own this village, and you control it, old man. Everyone was stunned. This boy had just come in and basically talked down to the Hokage, to which he did nothing back. Ichiraku stared at the boy, slowly his anger rising. Listen, you. Enough, Ichiraku, the boy is right. I have been slacking, and this is NY village. The Hokage stopped him swiftly. You are also the god of shinobi. If I remember, you lived through 2 wars, and you're letting these pansies push you around, Sarutobi. Naruto continued calling him by his name. To which the Hokage knew he was serious. His demeanor changed. He sat up on the couch, Karini holding onto his arm with hers, Hinata staring at his hand, Kakashi and Ichiraku dumbfounded. Yes, you are right, Naruto. I believe it's time for change, though I may need some help. They do have more power than me. So Naruto Namikaze, will you help me with this? Also, I would inquire as to how you know about the council and this village so thoroughly after so long. Smirking slightly, he answered with, Old man, you really think I'd leave and not have at least one spy in the village? If there ever was a chance, I'd want to return. They have my specific orders to just get information, nothing more, nothing less. Well, turning into Jiraiya already, aren't you, Naruto? Smiling, Sarutobi reached over the desk, offering his hand to the boy. Naruto grinned, his old man back, nodding and getting up to shake his hand, Karini and Hinata in tow. He bows lightly. I'll be seeing you, old man. I presume I will be placed on a genin team? Just tell me which one soon enough. Call me if you need me, I'll arrive. Naruto grinned and grabbed Hinata's hand, leaving in a shunshin of snow that sparkled before melting into nothing. Kakashi, Ichiraku, you may leave, I have a meeting to get to. The Hokage grinned and walked out the door, a prideful aura around him. Appearing just outside the building, Naruto let go of both of them and stood facing them. It's been a while since I've been back. How about some nice food? Ichiraku's is great for ramen. I say we go there, anyone else in for it? Both women looked at one another and nodded to Naruto. Alrighty, good. Well, it's this way, so he grabbed their hands and pulled them towards the restaurant at a normal pace. Karini looked over at Hinata, who looked a bit red and had a zoned-out look in her eyes. Seems she has a crush on Naruto. This can't end well. Naruto moved the curtains away and sat down with Karini next to him, and Hinata on her other side. Old man, 3 beef ramen. Naruto yelled into the shop. Hey! You cannot come in here talking like that. Tucci came around the corner and dropped the bowl he was cleaning, which crashed to the floor, shattering into hundreds of pieces. Naruto, he said in a low whisper. Get out here and serve our guest. After some murmuring and shuffling, a brunette teen walked out in with a pad and pencil. What can I get for you today? 3 miso, 2 beef, 2 chicken and some of your cinnamon tea, please. A beef for me and some herbal tea. Miso, please, with some honey tea. Quickly writing without looking up, walked to the back and prepared the food. Tucci looked after his daughter and knew her depression, though wondered why she didn't look up at the customer. So, old man, how's business been around here? Naruto asked, quietly taking Karini's hand. Karini looked over and saw Hinata grabbing chopsticks for them all. Well, it's been. Tucci smiled at him. Not even close to as good as when you were here, but it's alright. Taking a quick look, he continued. She's been really down since you left. Every year she gets like this. He motioned to Iam, who was just finishing the noodles. Here you are. Ayam somberly set down the bowls and took a seat to relax. Itadakimasu, the three said in unison and dug into their food. So Ayam, how have you been? He could see her ears perk up slightly, and she just shook her head. I've been alright, I guess. I miss my little buddy. Finally she looked up to see who was talking to her. Naruto. Jumping over the counter she hugs him, missing the ramen bowls. They both fell to the floor. Where have you been? Around, I am around. Smiling softly he patted her back as she got up and blushed. Good to see you're back, Naruto. You'll have to explain your trip sometime. She got back to work in a much more perkier mood than before, humming a tune. Taking his seat, Naruto glanced at Kurenai and saw her delicately eating her noodles and reading a poster on the far wall. Grabbing his chopsticks he makes his way to finish his ramen, done with a couple bowls in only a few minutes. Sipping at his tea he sighs contently. Seeing Hinata next to him, and how she was eating almost identically as her sensei, he couldn't help but glance back at Kurenai, and back to Hinata, shrug, and continue with his delicious noodles. Setting his finally bowl down with a content sigh, he stretches, popping his shoulders and back. While taking a quick sip of his tea he notices it's almost gone. It's getting late, I guess I should find a hotel and get Hinata home. Quickly he finishes his tea and pays for the whole meal. Yes, that would be nice, thank you, Naruto. Hinata couldn't seem to keep her blush down at him being nice. Well then let's get going, Kurenai? Yeah, I'll walk her with you. Hiashi might be waiting at the entrance. Getting up she stretches and finishes her tea. You know, Naruto, you never did say where you've been. Hinata takes up initiative to start the conversation. Well, I've kinda just been wandering around, not really set on one place in particular. Though I can foresee the hell that will be raised by staying here. I'm almost positive I'll be called for a council meeting soon enough. Sliding his hands into his pockets he take a comfortable casual pace. Naruto, you get jealous easily, don't you? Glancing at Kurenai he grinned. Animalistic possession? I'm not sure, just seeing as we're dating and you don't seem to like that Asuma guy. I just feel protective, I guess is the word. Slowly the blush on Kurenai's face rose, and he didn't miss it. He's sweet, I wish I could find someone like that. Hinata thought to herself as she smiled for her sensei. Well, I enjoy your protectiveness, just don't go overboard. Kurenai mock scolded him as they reached the Huga estate gates. Hinata, Huga, where have you been? A cold voice from behind the gates sounded out before they started to open up. I was just at dinner with Kurenai-sensei, sorry father, I forgot to come tell you first. Hinata was looking a bit paler than normal and Naruto was wondering why. This is her family, why does it sound more like he couldn't give a shit about her? You would remember that if you came home after your mission like you said you would. I heard from Niji that you were back when he saw you in that filthy ramen stand down the street. Glaring as the gates finally opened, Hiashi took notice of the new arrival to their group. And who might this be? Hiashi stared right into purple steel eyes, bearing a glare right back at the Huga head. Hiashi Huga, twin to Hisashi Huga, branch member, sent to Kumo as retribution for killing an ambassador. Head of the main branch family, wielder of the Kekkai Genkai, the Byakugan. Genin team consisted of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and Tsuminazuka. Naruto called off almost in a trance. His cold eyes darted back up to Hayashi's as they slowly turned into that of a hawk. Hiashi took a step back and activated his Byakugan instinctively, taking a look at the boy's eyes as they morphed, chakra seeped into them, then just stopped, as if the transformation was a part of his body that once changed, could sustain itself. Boy, who are you? The head Huga states, taking a slightly defensive stance, barely noticeable to untrained eyes, not Naruto's hawk eyes. The precise movements he took showed he was ready to strike, or defend at a moment's notice. Smirking, Naruto scoffs. Why don't you add 2 and 2, you were on his team, he looks like me, I'll give you a hint, he was the Yondaime. Seeing that Hiashi took a deliberate step back he continued. Still don't know? My mother left me for dead, in the hands of one of the clans. Hayashi's eyes widened, the shock so great he actually deactivated his Byakugan. I should have noticed by your eyes, you're her child. Minato's son. He could barely wrap his mind around the concept. If you were left with a clan and lived, you must have gotten away, meaning it had to be a clan that was either too nice or wiped out. Fugaku wanted me as his test subject, his plaything, so I could become his weapon. Naruto slowly let his eyes change back to his normal red-line pupil. Hinata couldn't help but gape. Her father was just talked down to, and he's not retaliating, on the contrary, he's being civil. She gasped when she heard about the Uchihas and glad for their demise at the hands of the clan prodigy. Kurenai, on the other hand, was thinking deeper into the situation. Naruto was held in with Fugaku, used as an experiment, and suddenly out of nowhere Itachi kills them all? It makes no sense, unless of course, Itachi wasn't on his father's side, and on the village's side instead. Which could mean only one of a few things, either he took it into his own hands, or he was ordered to kill them all. Thinking back to the dream she had, she gasped. She was by the Uchiha complex when she heard the screams. Glancing at Naruto, she grabbed his hand gently and moved towards him. Hiashi did not miss this. He was acutely taking in the situation. His daughter seemed to be infatuated with the boy, who appeared to be with her sensei. This could not end well for his daughter. Yes, well, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything back then. I wish I could have, but the council stopped everyone's actions to help you. I know, I may have been young, but I noticed that much. Naruto growled out at the council members, but Hiashi couldn't help but flinch. Well, I'm assuming you have things to do, Namikaze. You've been gone for a long time now. Come, Hinata, there's training to be done, and Niji has been waiting in the dojo for a little while now for that match I wanted you to partake in. Taking a sidestep to allow her, and he nods to Naruto. Yes, father, goodbye Kurenai-sensei, Naruto. Smiling back at the two, she walks into the gate, dreading what was to come. Watching the gates close, Kurenai turns her attention to the teen attached to her arm. Naruto. The past is the past. I'll walk you home, and I need to find a hotel for a while. Staring blankly forward, he lets her guide him to her house. Stealing glances at him, she worries for him. Past or not, it still happened to him, and could affect him. Naruto feels her eyes glance at him, and just sighs inwardly, hoping she doesn't act on her thoughts if they're too far out there. Walking through the park, some kids stared at Naruto. Kurenai giggled when they did. Some had wide eyes, as did their parents, thinking the yandere was back from the dead. Lacing his fingers with hers, he feels the nightly wind flutter through his cloak. Seeing a woman with purple hair walking towards them, his senses instantly flare up with the smell of snake, stiffening his eyes transform on instinct into tiger's eyes. Kurenai smiles seeing her old friend, but it falters when she feels Naruto stiffen a bit. Hoping he isn't like everyone else, he was through almost the same thing, right? Anko was happily eating her dango at her favorite shop. Pulled out the money for her dining and took her last piece to go. Walking down the street, she decided to walk through the park. It was nice, and it always had a good sunset if you sat on the right bench. Munching on her dango, she looked past the park to see her friend, Kurenai, walking with some guy, who just put his hood up and laced his fingers in Kurenai's. Slowly she stops as the wind blows past her, and she sees Kurenai smile at her. An odd feeling of happiness for her friend but blankness for herself flooded her. Looking to the teen, she noticed his eyes shining purple, almost glowing. They seemed to be primal, cat-like slits as they stared at her. Shrugging it off, she started walking again, intent on talking with Kurenai for a bit, maybe spending the night at her house like usual. The teen really perplexed her. Kurenai wasn't dating, was she? If so, where did she meet this one at? Kurenai was on edge. She didn't know what Naruto was thinking, or if instincts alone made him stiffen, but she was worried. Slowly she and Naruto made their way and met up with Anko, though she couldn't shake this paranoid feeling she was getting. Kure-chan! Anko screamed as they got closer together. She came up and hugged the rose right out of Naruto's grasp. Surprisingly, he didn't growl. How was your mission? She pulled away and let the raven-haired woman answer. Glancing at the unknown boy, she answered. It was eventful to say the least, but it was a success. Gato was controlling Wave, and we had to get through Zabuza and his apprentice before killing Gato and taking it back. Well, that's good then. Anko glanced at Naruto quickly, who caught the glance as he was staring at her. Was wondering about staying at your place tonight, like old times. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to take a shower and relax a bit tonight and for the next few days. Smiling, Kurenai took the chance to start walking and noticed they both followed her. She could tell Naruto was still staring at Anko. This discerned her a bit. I believe I should be leaving for my hotel soon enough. Naruto chided as they walked. To which Anko thought his voice was heavenly, and Kurenai was reminded of how he sounded on the bridge. I'd invite you to stay at my house, that is if you don't mind sleeping on a couch. Staring back at him, she awaits his answer. Contemplatively, he rolls it over in his head a few times. I assume I'll also be making breakfast then? Kurenai grinned and turned around. Of course, why wouldn't you make breakfast for two lovely ladies? She noted how he glances at Anko when she said that but grinned wider nonetheless. Just kill the snake, bitch. Take her out, 10 seconds tops. Shut the fuck up, I'm not going to listen to you. Feeling his body start to burn, he continued the walk with the two. If you don't, I'll make you, human. Growling deeply, he feels a major headache coming on. Brat, her master did this to me, to us, get revenge for us. It won't take long, she won't even notice until too late, just drive your blade through her heart. Feeling the burning intensify, his growling starts to raise in volume, still too soft for his companions. If you don't shut up, I'm going to what? Human, what will you do? Sighing, Naruto takes a breath and relaxes his body, pushing the heat back to his stomach. Hearing a loud scream in his head, he grins. Serves you right, bitch. Grinning to himself as he turned the burning chakra right back. Damn you, I will get you for this, human. Giving no thought to the femininity of the voice, he continues walking with the two. Glancing at the purple-haired kunoichi, he scowls. Still, she smells too much like him, too much snake. Setting my instincts off, shaking his head, he rests his hands behind his head and walks on. Glancing worriedly at the boy, Karini couldn't help but feel paranoid. He's scowling and grunting, as if somehow internally in pain, and fighting with himself. She notices how he keeps glancing at Anko, and can tell she notices too, if the fidgeting is any indication. Wondering if this was a good idea, she unlocks her door and lets them both in. A small house, with a single bedroom, bath and kitchen. It had a homey feeling every time she opened the door and came in. Well, come on in, you two. I'll make some tea. You two sit in the living room. Motioning to the puffed-up pieces of furniture showing how comfy they are. Taking to the two-person love seat, Naruto takes his cloak off and sets it over the armrest. After taking his shoes off, he sits and stares out the window, his eyes still that of a tiger. Red seemed to have seeped into the iris from the edges. Going to the one-person chair across from the love seat, Anko took her shoes off and coiled her feet under her on the chair. Seeing Naruto glance at her, she takes a look, seeing the red start to slowly recede. In that instant she was filled with fear, before the red was completely gone, and he looked away back out the window. What was that? I couldn't move, the killing intent so accurate at me, I'm sure no one else even felt it. Taking the time to examine him, she notices how toned her is. Little to no fat at all muscle. Oval-like face with 6 horizontal marks, 3 on each cheek. His eyes were a deep amethyst. As they changed back to normal, a red ring formed around the pupil. Well-built body, toned but not so much to impede movement, the air around him held confidence, pride, and instinct. She shivered, feeling her body react to how he acted and looked. Damn, primal look, instinctive aura, that's damn hot. I'm not going to lie to myself, she's fucking lucky. Grinning to herself, Anko took to watching Karini, hoping she'd hurry. Fidgeting a bit, she waits, and waits. Glancing at the door seconds before Karini came through, Naruto smiled and took his tea. Karini handed Anko her tea and sat next to Naruto for a few reasons, mainly she was straight across from Anko. So tell me, how have you been this last month or so, Anko? Grinning, she sipped her tea. Oh, just some assassinations and a few spy missions, really, nothing big, the normal, you know how it is. Nodding, Karini smiled. The only thing out of normal is you coming back with this guy. She motions to Naruto. Other than that, nothing's really been going on for me. Taking notice that he didn't even acknowledge her, no glare or even glance, she scowled. Yeah, well, it's a long story and I'm willing to listen to it. Anko grinned as Karini seemed to fluster for a second before discreetly motioning to her neck. That's when Anko saw it for the first time, the necklace, and one thing that wasn't returned to Wave. Getting the hint of later, Anko grinned and nodded. You know, Gaki, I seem to recognize you for some reason. Naruto finally looked up at the snake mistress. Is it cause I'm the Yandame's son? Naruto said slowly, like she was stupid. No, not that, from somewhere else, I can't remember though. Thinking, Anko didn't notice he pulled out a bingo book and threw it at her. Glaring, she opened it to the bookmark, and read. Yeah. That's where I remember seeing you once before. Damn kid, you got a nice bounty on your head. Naruto scoffed. It wasn't that great, not yet at least, maybe after letting it come up a bit he can do some things and get the bounty himself. Grinning at his own thoughts, he tries to figure out how. Zoning everything else out and sipping his tea. Feeling a something slither its way through his arm, he looks down, seeing Karini's hand grasp his arm. Looking up at her, he sees her smile. This is good tea, thank you. He smiled, knowing it's a bit late to say that. Laughing it off, Karini grins. Thanks, it's a new one I haven't had yet, though I've heard it's good. Glancing at the clock, Naruto sees how late it is, once again time flying when doing nothing. Also noting the time, Karini gets up and stretches, saying how she'd be right back, and takes the cups to the kitchen. Anko, feeling awkward once again, gets up to stretch, eliciting a sigh from her bones. Glancing up, Naruto couldn't help but notice just how little she was wearing, that being just a fishnet under the trench coat. Needless to say, he got a good eye full of her breasts, and raised an eyebrow at her while she grins at him. Like what you see, Gaki? More like wondering how the hell you can fight or run without those causing some sort of discomfort or getting in the way. Naruto grins as she scowls at him. Wait a minute, was that a compliment? Or are you just fucking with me? Anko glares. Does it matter? Statement which ended the quarrel as Karini came back. Well, it's getting late and I'm heading to bed. Naruto noticed she was just in her fishnet and shorts again. Remember, Naruto, you're making breakfast. Yeah, whatever. Smiling, Naruto stood up and went over to the couch. Might as well try to sleep then, any? Karini quickly grabbed him a blanket and pillow. If you need these, I'll set them at the foot of the couch. Seeing him nod, she leans down. Make a big breakfast, K. Naruto. Smiling, she kisses him quickly and sets off to the bedroom, Anko hot on her heels. Going to girl chat probably, she knows I don't need these, right? No sense letting them just sit there. Grabbing the bed dressings, he set up a moderate comfy bed and laid down, hands behind his head, and let his mind wander. Before the door could even shut, Anko was off. Okay, Kure-chan, I want details, out with it, girl. Smiling at her friend, now whatever do you mean, Anko? Grinning, she jumps onto her bed, feeling Anko jump after her and tackle her. Come on, Kure-chan, you know what I mean. What's with the gaki? What's going on between you two? How did it happen? The details. With every question, she was bouncing while straddling Kurenai's legs. Okay, calm down, Anko. Sit down and listen. Anko grinned. She loved gossip. Whether she could tell someone or not, she loved it all the same. Well, Anko, it isn't much, but we met on the mission. He saved Kakashi and his student Sasuke. Seemingly begrudgingly, though, he doesn't like the Uchiha. He got me this necklace when we took down Gato. Well, he did. I took out some guards in the place. We took all the money, documents and jewelry. He gave everything but this back. Showing the necklace off a bit, she smiled. That's gorgeous, Kure-chan. What's it made of, though? Diamond, emerald and ruby, he said, giggling at Anko's reaction. That must be priceless. She grabbed at it and took a closer look. Yeah, well, after that, we stayed out by the lake and I fell asleep leaning on him. I guess he took us into the forest and let me sleep while it. Whoa, you mean you just fell asleep on him? You won't even talk to most of the men in this village, but you just meet him and sleep on him? Yes, I know, odd, especially for me. We woke up before the teams and our caretaker made us a special breakfast. Soon after that we went to train. Well, he did. I trained the team. How does he train? Is it brutal, or is it casual? Well, brutal to you or I, but casual for him. I mean, unless you go up again 400 clones of yourself as training. Smiling, she saw her friend's eyes go wide as she fell and plopped on the bed. Holy shit! Anko bounced back up. He has to have the chakra of a Hokage or more, and stamina. Don't get me started, of a kurenai. Blushing deeply at the implication, she shook her head. No! Anko, we didn't do anything like that. Anko pounced on her again. Oh, come on, Kure-chan, you can tell me you fucked him, didn't you? So long you couldn't stand it? Or was it that he couldn't stand it, huh? Anko! We didn't have sex. Huffing, Anko got off her. Fine. Can I continue now? She nodded. Good. After that we found out he was nature's wrath. Mind you, this whole time his clones were fixing and building the bridge. Anko nodded again, intrigued. Well, the second night he was with us, he went upstairs into a room while we all slept downstairs. That is until I woke up and followed him, still sleepy and all. Oh, of course, blamed sleep. Grinning, Anko motioned for her to continue, rolling her eyes at her friend. Well, I slipped into these clothes, motioning to the ones she wore now, and slipped into bed with him. I just couldn't seem to get comfy until I laid on him again. Nothing happened. I just slid onto him and fell asleep. He's so warm and his scent is intoxicating. Mixed together, it's just like a natural sleep aid, welcomed or not. She laughs at how she fell asleep a few times unwillingly. You realize how uneventful this is for me, right? Anko stared blankly at her. You're the one wanting details on what happened. And nothing good happened? Anko whined. Well, there was that kiss when our caretaker made us breakfast. But you wouldn't like to hear about that. Grinning, Karini could see her friend brighten up. Come on, Karini, tell me what it was like. Grinning at her friend getting something good for once. Well, we made a bet and I lost. I had to do something for him, anything he wanted, so he told me to close my eyes and he kissed me. At first it was nothing, but after a few seconds it was the most intoxicating, best kiss I've ever had. I was breathless by the end and I'm sure I looked high or drunk. Karini giggled remembering that and the look on Anko's face. Oh, come on, Anko, it can't be that good. You heard his voice, right? She nodded. That's only a sample. It was just as good on my lips as his voice to our ears. Anko's eyes widened. If that's anything to go by, then it must have been good. Smiling a genuine smile, she looked at her friend. Kure-chan, I'm happy for you. Closing her eyes with the smile she felt for her friend, she plopped onto the bed again. If that's all, then I guess you really didn't have sex. Damn, and I was thinking you might be holding out on me now. Laughing with Anko, she couldn't help but see the time. Come on, let's sleep, it's getting late, and I want to get up and eat some of his breakfast tomorrow as soon as possible. Turning the lights off, Karini slips under the covers, Anko right behind her. Karini laid on her back, being the comfiest position right now. Soon Anko slid up on top of her, cheek resting on her breast, fast asleep in seconds. Smiling, Karini rested her hand on her friend's hair. Good night, Anko. Letting her other hand fall on the snake mistress' arm, she fell asleep. Hokage-sama? A bear-masked ANBU appeared in the room as called. Yes, Bear, I need you to inform a Naruto Namikaze that he is wanted in the council chambers tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you will, pick him up, then you have the rest of the night off. Sarutobi smiled. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will inform Namikaze tomorrow. Good night, sir. Bowing, the ANBU left in a swirl of leaves and the Sarutobi took a drag from his pipe. Yes, I think tomorrow will go well, my friend. Sarutobi stares at the picture of the yondaime. Sighing, Naruto found he couldn't sleep. Being back here, all he could think about while on the brink of sleep was the Uchiha. The first few times he fell asleep for a few minutes, all he saw were the purple eyes of Kushina. Glaring, throwing daggers with her eyes, ridding herself of this boy. Why is she always glaring at me? Naruto sighed again and threw of the other dream he had while trying to sleep. Somehow he got away. Maybe they let him to toy with him. It didn't matter, he was hungry, he wanted to get out. More than anything he was scared. He was so scared he couldn't even cry, all his tears wasted in that lab as they called it. Move, move! Come on, legs, move faster. Glancing back, he saw no one was chasing him and settled down a little bit. Hiding in a bush, he pulled out the only thing he had on him, a rusted kunai. Making his way through the forest on the edge of the complex, he spotted a dog. He thought it was a dog. He didn't care, he wanted food and he was going to eat. Running at the oversized dog, he managed to get the upper hand and plunge his kunai into its back, before it growled and bit his arm. Not even screaming, he sliced the animal's stomach open, letting its organs fall out as it bled to death. Sighing, he sat down and stabbed the heart, ending its life, and stated to cut out the organs and skin the animal. Hearing a rustling, he looked back. 2 more managed to come by. That's when he realized these weren't dogs, they were wolves. Always in a pack of only a few. Picking up his kunai, he doubted he would make it out, but he'd be damned not to fight back. The 2 wolves charged in and one bit his leg, pulling him to the ground, and it led the way for the kunai to land perfectly into the wolf's heart. Feeling the jaw lax, he tried to stand, shifting his weight on the good leg. The final wolf lunged and Naruto ducked, but caught the wolf's paw on his head, flinging him back and dropping his kunai. Seeing its opportunity, the wolf lunged again and landed on him, arms pinned by its paws. It quickly went for the kill but stopped when the boy's body began releasing pheromones that was related to wolves, and his muscles started to change and contort. Jumping away, the wolf watched in morbid fascination as the boy transformed into a wolf himself. Naruto had passed out a bit ago, his body taking a mind of its own thanks to his bloodline. With all the grace of a wolf, Naruto's body lunged and sunk its teeth into the other wolf. Shaking it off, the wild wolf snapped at Naruto's front paw, nipping its already bloody wound. Growling, Naruto went for the kill, straight to the throat and latched on, shaking his head and throwing the wolf to the ground. Not taking the chance, he sinks his teeth into the wolf, tearing flesh and fur. His bloodline, along with hunger, led with instincts, he tore at the flesh and swallowed greedily, feeding off all 3 corpses. Shuddering, Naruto was glad he passed out. He didn't think he would have been able to do that otherwise. It took a while, but he finally got himself cleaned up. I can't believe they still found me though, even while I was inside the tree I dug out. Ugh, can't sleep. Sitting up, Naruto went to the bathroom and splashed water on his face. Why do I have this foreboding feeling that something bad will happen soon? Taking his time, he went to the kitchen and got a small cup of water, taking it with him to the living room and sat down sipping at it. Looking at the clock, he found it to read 3:15 hours and I still haven't slept. Doesn't look like I will. Let's see what she has for food, see if I need anything in the morning. Looking in the cupboards and fridge, he found he only needed a few things for the dango, and his secret spice to cook with. Good, I won't have to get much then. Sitting back at the chair Anko was in before, he grabbed a book on her shelf and started to read it. Nagato the Gutsy Ninja. He couldn't help but feel like he should know what this was about. He felt connected just reading the name of the character. Naruto noticed after flipping to the back that half the pages were blank. He thumbed the first blank one and read a few more pages, going back and forth between it, wondering why it was blank, before words seemed to appear on the pages. What's going on? Is the book made so the ending can't be seen unless you've read it? Reading the newly printed page, he noticed how different the character's attitude was from the beginning, as if a different author wrote it, or as if the character drastically changed from then to the start. Weird book. Naruto noted and started from the front again, reading on. After a while, he was able to reach halfway through the book, and the book seemed to grow as he read. Pages just never seemed to end. Taking a break and noting his page, Naruto looked at the time. Seeing the clock now read 6:30, he decided to go out and buy a few things for breakfast. Cracking the window open, he jumped out and went to the shopping district. Okay, well, I need something sweet, a bit of this and that. Oh, that would taste good. Mentally checking everything off, he gets small cart filled up and grabs a flavored water for himself. Getting up to the checkout, he pulls out a rounded amount for the supplies as the cashier rings it up. Grinning, he finds out he was over by only a few ryo and told the cashier to keep the change. After bagging it, he quickly left and took out his water, sipping at it, and walking back to Karinai's home. On the road, he saw a few people that stared at him awkwardly. He waved and they seemed dazed and waved back. Smiling, he capped his water and enjoyed the early morning air. Sasuke-kun, let's go on a date. He was enjoying it anyway. Looking back, he saw the 2 from Kakashi's team, Sasuke and Sakura. Not wanting to be seen, Naruto quickly jumps to the rooftops and speeds up. God, I'd rather play roulette than have to talk to him. Spoiled brat. Jumping down in front of Karinai's, he didn't notice how Hinata seemed to watch him enter the window, as she saw him get out also, her walk to and from a store down from her complex. Wonder what he's going to do, maybe I'll visit Kurenai-sensei for lunch. Idly thinking as she walked through the gate and nodded to the branch guard. Father had been less strict since seeing Naruto, what's going on with him? Setting down a few supplies, she got to work on making breakfast for her and her cousin Niji. Sliding the windows shut and setting the groceries on the table, he started to put them away, telling himself he'll wake the others with food around 10. Looking at the clock, it was only 7:15, taking only 45 minutes to finish his trip. Thanks to that blasted Uchiha. Taking his time, he pulls his water back out and heads to the couch, taking a drink and laying down after taking his shoes back off. Sighing for his refreshment, he closes his eyes contently, satisfied at how comfy the couch is and how the water slides down his throat. The corner of his eye caught movement in the hallway and instinctively changed to hawk eyes, spying a body in the hallway. Come on out, I can see you. Naruto called, uncaring, taking another drink. Slowly from the dark, Anko emerged from the hallway and sat down in front of Naruto on the floor. Is there something you want? Or are you going to sit there all morning? Shouldn't you be asleep? Naruto asked quickly. Maybe I should be, but I heard a window open and close up. I was checking on it and saw you awake. Shouldn't you be asleep also? Anko remarked. Sighing, Naruto takes another drink. Would if I could, but I can't. What do you really have to say, Snake? Turning his head, he stares at her. Flinching, she turns away slightly before turning back to him. I wanted to thank you for cheering Karini up. She seems less stressed out than normal, and if you're the culprit, then thank you. I might be, not sure yet. Taking a drink, he continues. I just like seeing her happy. She's gorgeous, and as of yet I haven't seen her in a down mood. I guess that means I am the reason she's happier. Yeah, well, don't let this get to you, but thanks, Gaki. Standing up, Anko kisses his cheek in thanks, and grins wide. Don't let it get to you, but I'll kill ya if you hurt her, Gaki. Taking the path back to the bedroom, she stops in the hallway. I'm glad to hear she's better. She seems so much better than before the mission. Almost like when I first met her. Retreating to the room, she takes her place back on top of Karini and falls asleep in seconds. Brat? She, the snake, called me a brat? Issues much? Finishing off his water, he sets the bottle next to his shoes and closes his eyes. With nothing left to do, he meditates. After so long in his trance, he opens an eye to check the time. 9:30, perfect. Stretching and sitting up, he yawns quietly and heads to the kitchen. Taking out all the ingredients for the dishes he's about to prepare, he turns the water on, letting it warm up. Pulling out seemingly random things, from garlic powder to fish, he sets them all on the counter in the middle of the kitchen. There, got everything but the bread for the dango. Quickly grabbing it, he takes out a few pots and pans, spatulas and spoons, a knife, and a fork. Washing his hands to get ready to cook, he starts with the spice. Taking a bowl from the cupboard, he starts mixing all the seasonings he bought along with a few already in the house. Taking out a scroll, he tapped a little bit of a black powder into the mix and churned the powders. Taking a spoon, he tests the spice and deems it good enough for breakfast. Heating the oven and filling a pot with water, he set a pan on the stove and greased it with a little oil. Turning 2 burners on, he set the water to boil and the pan to heat up while he filleted the fish with the knife, tossing strips into the spice mix and into the pan. Opening a bag of rice, he dumps the entire thing into the pot and lets it soften while he tends to some eggs and grabs another pan. To an observer, it would look like her was randomly throwing things and getting lucky with how it all turned out. Slowly, Naruto started to hum while cracking the eggs and setting them in the pan. Turning the rice down, he turns and grabs a pinch of the spice and lets it rain over the pot, mixing up the rice with a spoon. Turning slightly, he grabs the spatula and flips the eggs along with the fish. I can see where you are. I can tell you're enjoying it so far. Grabbing the bread, he quickly sets it in another pan to darken, grabbing the sweets to mix with the bread. I would love to escape, but now I am bound by the burn of your eyes, looking on as I am starting to realize. Grabbing some peppers and veggies, he starts to chop them up and toss them in with the eggs and fish. Taking the spatula and flipping the eggs to simmer a bit more, he tests the rice. Deciding it needed more, he starts churning it and pinching spice into it. Grabbing some cheese with one hand, he sprinkles it over the pepper-filled eggs and a bit on the fish. I'm a pawn in your game, and this checkmate. Grabbing some lettuce, he drops it with the eggs and turns the burner off, using the spatula to close the eggs, melted cheese holding it together. Taking the pan, he sets it on a pad on the counter. Grabbing the bread and sweets, he mixes them together into larger balls of dango than what he saw the shop sold. Taking another batch of darkened bread, he starts making his famous dango. As the roses lift their heads to catch a glimpse of my demise, setting all the dango down on a cookie sheet, he sets it in the oven to cook a bit before flipping the fish again. Grabbing another pan, he grabs a steak that he bought and lets the pan heat up with oil, setting the steak in after cutting the fat off. Turning the burner off, he takes the rice and sets it by the omelets. Tending to the steak, he pushes the spatula down onto it, getting the grease out, and flips it. You'll be throwing lies around like ocean waves throw down the tides. Grabbing the fish, he checks both sides and pulls the slices onto an empty plate. Scooping up the peppers and veggies and putting them on the same plate. Using the pan for fish, he sets bacon onto it and lets the oil and grease from the fish cook the bacon faster, to a light crisp. Checking back on the steak, he presses the grease out and flips it once more, putting spice on both sides, letting it finish darkening the middle. And they are breaking on my shore, and the rescue team won't save me now. I'm out too far. Taking the dango out of the oven, he takes one and cuts it open to test it. Perfect taste. Testing it for himself after letting it cool, he sets them on another pad with the other finished food. Grabbing a plate, he presses the steak and sets it on the plate, putting it with the finished food after double-checking it was ready and fat-free. Swiftly turning, he takes the bacon off the burner and turns all the burners off, along with the oven. Setting the bacon down with everything else, he goes into the fridge and grabs some fresh fruit he bought and a bowl. So I'll waste these nights for a while, but I'll be holding on to you forever. Using the fork to improvise, he somehow squeezes the juice from the oranges into a large jug over the sink. After the jug was filled a third of the way, he adds a bit of sugar and tastes it. Seeing it too strong, he adds a touch of water from the faucet and tastes it again. Nodding, he sets a lid on the jug and puts it with the food. Taking a lemon, he cuts it up and sets it on a plate by itself for now. And this is where my heart is cold and torn, and as I read the words you wrote last night, the butterflies are creeping through my spine. Cutting the steak in two, he puts each on a plate, splitting the fish and bacon along the two plates. Taking an omelet for each plate, he sets one on a third as well. Taking rice, he puts a large portion on the plate with the lone omelet, using the rest on the last two plates. Splitting the dango in 3 equal portions, he even out all the plates. Taking 3 glasses out, he puts a lemon wedge in each glass and fills one with orange juice, setting it with the seemingly empty plate. Putting a lemon wedge with each piece of steak and fish, he squeezes the last one in his orange juice and tosses the peel in the trash. Looking over at the time, it took a while to make the food. It now said 11:15. Shrugging, Naruto cleaned up the dishes for 15 minutes and went to the bedroom door, which was mostly closed, and knocked softly on the door frame. Hey, breakfast is ready, you two hurry up before it gets cold. Getting back to the kitchen, he sets up forks for everyone and sits at his spot, tasting his omelet and grinning to himself. Slowly he heard shuffling and some fighting. Before long he saw the two coming in, stretching and yawning the whole way. Well, now this smells delicious, Naruto. Karini smiled at him and sat in one of the seats while Anko took the other. How did you manage to make all of this? I didn't even have some of it here. She questions, looking to him for an answer. Kinda snuck out and went shopping. Taking a quick bite of his omelet, he continues. Well, are you both going to sit there and stare, or try it? Looking over, he saw Anko hesitate. Looking across the table, Anko watched with bated breath as Karini took a bit of the fish and tried it. Hearing Karini gasp slightly and grab another bite, she surmised it mustn't be that bad and tried the steak. For minutes all was silent. The only sound was Karini cutting her food and munching happily on it, along with Naruto taking a drink of his orange juice. My god, Anko started softly. This is fucking delicious. Anko jumped into her food with gusto as Naruto almost dropped his juice and Karini grinned at her friend. Finishing up his omelet, Naruto starts with everything but the dango on his plate, working his way across the plate. Anko quickly poured some juice and took a sip. Damn, even home squeezed OJ. Anko murmured and took to the fish. Karini poured some as well and took a few sips before getting back to meal with vigor. Mentally, Naruto was chuckling to himself from the two women's reactions. Is it really that good? He asks himself as he shrugs and takes a bite of dango. Grinning to herself, Karini was wondering if she should make him a permanent resident for her household right now. This was the best meal she's ever had since her mother made her dinner when she was a kid. Anko was jealous. Beyond that, she envied Karini right now. He can fucking cook. This dango is heavenly. Oh my god, she so has a keeper. Damn, I'd love to have met him first. Quickly she eyed the boy in question intently. Even lasting only a second, she concluded a few things. Good looker too, doesn't look like he'd be bad in bed, damn her. Taking to her food once again, she swore. She let out a moan. Raising an eyebrow at hearing the snake moan from his food, he looked back at Karini, who, like a chain reaction, moaned right after her friend. Sweat dropping, Naruto finished his meal and rinsed the plate, standing at the counter and drinking his juice and hums a bit more. Looking up, Karini couldn't help but feel happy. She found this guy? Nice, sweet, good-looking, and can cook? It's like she won the lottery for dates. A knock interrupts the peace of the atmosphere in the room and Naruto excuses himself to go get the door. Getting to the door, he turns the lock and opens it quickly, asking a polite, "Yes? How may I help you?" to a somewhat tall, bearded man with a fire handkerchief on his waist. And who the hell are you? The man yells out. Seeing another man in Karini's house was not what he was expecting. And who the hell are you? Should I know that voice? Looks like your lover is back. Anko teases the crimson eyes Jonin. Damn it, it was such a good morning too. I'll be right back. Getting up quickly, not knowing what could happen, she turns around the corner. Looking around, Anko snickers and steals a dango from her plate as she has yet to touch them. Asuma. Of what do I owe the pleasure? Karini asks with light sarcasm as she wedges in front of Naruto, who just moved back and held onto the door for a second before going and pouring more juice. Who the hell is that? Asuma asks, barging in and sitting on the couch without taking his shoes off, tracking dirt through her white carpet. Scoffing, Karini glares at him. What does it matter who he is? Closing the door, knowing he won't leave without answers, she sit across from him. I come to visit and that guy comes and opens the door, that's what it matters. Why is he here? You said you're not planning on dating anyone while you refused my date before your mission. Asuma looked at her angrily, starting to pull a cigarette out. Don't you dare! You do and you'll never be allowed here again. As for why he is here, he had nowhere to stay last night and I met him a while back. He's getting a new house today. I thought I would let him sleep on the couch and make me and Anko breakfast. Karini saw Asuma scoff at Anko's name. Yeah, you're right, I wasn't planning on it, and nobody says me and him are dating. So then you're not dating that guy? Good. Asuma grins and is about to ask her on a date. Actually, I never said we weren't either. Not that it's of any concern to you. Grinning when she sees him scowl, she continues. Now, as I said, I'm eating. If you'd like, you can wait outside until I'm done, or we can try and talk another time, Asuma. Nah, I'd rather stay right here and keep an eye on you. Asuma crosses a leg over his knee and leans back. Sipping at his juice, Naruto stares as Anko still is munching ferociously on her dango. If you like it that much, I can make you more later too, Sna Anko-san. Naruto commented without looking at her. Swallowing the bit in her mouth, Anko looks at him with surprise for calling her by name. Really? Damn Gaki, I love that, this is better than the shop down the street, fucking good. She answered while shoving half of another oversized dango in her mouth. Thanks, I think. Naruto replies while glancing at her, and taking another sip of juice. You know, I mean what I said last night. You hurt her and I'll kill you, you got that? Anko said with killing intent, sent at the boy, who to her surprise only raised an eyebrow. Going to have to do better than that. Pretty protective, you got a crush on the rose? Naruto couldn't help but grin at her blush. Either way, it's good she can have a friend like you. There might be hope for me yet, maybe. Naruto sombers up a bit at the end. Hey now, what do you mean by that, Gaki? Anko asks, eating her dango in a dignified manner until realizing it was dango and shoving it into her awaiting maw. Well, with that snake's mark on you, and your curse for it, she doesn't seem to hold it against you at all, so maybe my own curse won't be held too highly in consideration. This got Anko to stop eating. How do you know about that? I smell of snake, I get that. How did you surmise what you did with just that? Anko asked nervously, somewhat fearful of this man. It doesn't take a genius. Just like it doesn't take one to see how much you hate him, and what he's done, or how you're not associated with him in any way. Anko sighed as he said this. But how will that help you? Well, I tell you, but I have no reason to right now. Naruto debates telling her, his curse, she knows the same fate with that snake, but then again she might do what the others did before. Try me, you dug up my past, spill it brat, or I'll make you. Chuckling, Naruto looks at her in all seriousness, with a hint of humor in his voice. I'd like to see you try, snake, I really would. Standing up, Naruto points to his stomach. At first Anko questioned him and just blushed at his muscles. Glaring up, she found him with a raised eyebrow and a smirk. Looking back, she saw a huge intricate seal. Gasping, she speaks. You're the QB child, aren't you? Getting a nod as he sipped his drink, she shivered. He must be powerful then, but why does he act the way he does? I see that as similar then, isn't it, Gaki? God damn it, get the hell out. Looking down at Anko, Naruto and her both get up from leaning on the counter, or seat, and march to the living room. What the hell is going on here? Anko screams and sees Asuma, obviously pissed with an unlit cigarette behind his ear, bend over the couch leaning into Karini. What the fuck does it matter to you, snake bitch? To the surprise to everyone, Naruto was the one to answer from the back, still sipping his juice. You're disrupting a peaceful atmosphere, a nice breakfast, and two lovely ladies' morning. Not to leave out, I'm sure that Karini-san doesn't want you here, Sarutobi-san. Naruto said from behind Anko, holding her back by her shoulder with the seal. Seriously, who the fuck are you? This one won't say much. Pointing to Karini. What about you, snake bitch, you gonna answer? Asuma yells. Naruto quickly wraps an arm around Anko, holding her back, to which she realized, maybe she couldn't kill him, it wouldn't stop her from trying though. Resting his head on her shoulder, he takes another sip of his juice, drawling it out for Asuma, who is getting more pissed by the second. I'm afraid Anko isn't in the mood for exchanging words, now are you? Naruto glances at her, to which she growls back at him. Smiling, Naruto turned his attention back to Asuma. Now, I believe Karini asked you to leave? Naruto leant a bit more on Anko, getting comfortable on her shoulder, his breath tickling her neck. Why don't you go do that? The door's right there. Why you little Naruto grabbed his arm as he was cocking it back to hit Naruto. Asuma took a double take too of him? How the hell? Shadow clone? When did he make it? Anko didn't even notice him make it, and he's leaning on her. Kurenai was looking more at Naruto and his behavior with Anko than Asuma for a second. Soon when he talked she turned to Asuma, only to smirk. I'd really rather not have to fight, so just do what the woman says, Sarutobi-san. Quickly Asuma pulls from the clone's grasp and the clone poofs away. Yeah, whatever. Walking out the door he slams it on the way out. Waiting until the door slams shut, Naruto gets up off Anko, lending a hand to Kurenai to help her up. What's with the sand, Naruto? I thought we got over this. Kurenai asked playfully. You want him to know how close we are? I mean, I could care less, who knows, thought you did though. Naruto grinned. You seemed awfully comfy on Anko's shoulder, Naruto. She noted how Anko hadn't moved yet and a small blush adorned her cheek. Or maybe she was comfy with you. Grinning, Kurenai teased her friend, who glared and stomped back to her dango. Walking over he cups her chin and kisses her. Go eat, Rose, I'll clean this mess. He commented on the dirt in the carpet. Smiling sweetly, Kurenai nodded and kisses him back. Thanks, Naruto. The food is delicious, thank you for a nice breakfast. Taking a quick hug she goes to finish her meal. Taking out the vacuum in the closet he quickly uses a light water jutsu and cleans up the stains. So Anko, comfy? Giggles Kurenai while eating the steak. He grabbed me, that brat. I didn't say he could grab me, but I just froze when he leant on me. Damn brat. Anko muttered and stole a dango from Naruto's plate. Don't worry about it, Anko. Smiling, Kurenai cuts a piece of steak off again, chewing it for a few seconds. Besides, he's very sweet, he wasn't going to do anything to you, just keep you from getting into more trouble. Yeah, whatever, I don't need help. Grumbling, she munches her dango. Well, it's done and I'm going to. There was another knock at the door, and Naruto insisted to open it again. Taking the same approach he opened the door with. How may I help you? Taking in the looks of a masked ninja. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze? You are to report to the Hokage at 1 o'clock. I'm here to pick you up. Looking at the clock, Naruto noted it was 10 to. Alright, can you hold a second please? Getting a nod he quickly ushered the ANBU in and headed for the kitchen. Kurenai, Anko, I must cut my visit short, I am needed at the Hokage's office. Sorry, I can't see you finish. Smiling he leans down and kisses Kurenai. Before he could get up she pulls him back down, his hand shooting to the table to stable himself before relaxing into the kiss. Ahem, I'm still here, you know. Naruto got away for a second to reply with. Yes, and? Do you want one too? The humor in his voice was thick and Anko threw a fork at him. Catching it swiftly, Kurenai finally let him go. Using the fork he took the last dango from Anko's plate. This if for the one you stole from me. Smiling he munched the dango and tossed the fork in the sink. CYE round ladies. Walking to the other room he slips his cloak and shoes on in seconds, following the ANBU out the door. Wonder what's going to happen with him at the Hokage's office. Anko ponders out loud. Don't know, but I'm not letting this food go to waste. You full yet? Kurenai asked, getting a slow nod. Jumping up she grabs some bowls with lids and puts the extra food in them, setting it all in the fridge for later. Kure-chan. Let's go for a walk. Anko bounces around and tugs on her friend's arm. Giggling she agrees and slips some more clothes on and her shoes, walking out into the peaceful day with Anko. Hey old man, you wanted to see me? Naruto called to the Hokage, who chuckles and motioned to the seat in front of him. Yes, I did, Naruto, we have a council meeting today, for your birthright and heritage. Smiling he puffs on his pipe. That's great, Aji-san, I guess let's get going then. Stupid council, chuckling Hiruzen agrees as they make their way down the hall to the council chambers. Wait here while I introduce the meeting, I'll call you in. Seeing him nod, Hiruzen walks in the room. Hokage-sama, why are we all here? Some of us are busy and need to attend to our clans. Hiashi stated while a few clan heads agreed. Oh, stow it, Hiashi, you just want to run your poor girl into the ground more. Some retorts. Hokage-sama, not to be rude, but what is this sudden meeting about? She asks politely, to which the Hokage smiles. To welcome a clan back to Konoha, and appoint the clan head to their rightful spot on the council. Suddenly all the members in the council went silent. A new clan? Welcoming back a clan? And what is this clan to us? Mustn't be too great if they were here once and trying to get back again. Tsukumo Haruno yelled from the back. Ah, but they aren't trying to get in, I'm making sure they do. The Hokage grinned at their stunned faces. Would you please come in? He called to the doors. Sighing, Naruto resigned himself, he heard it all, and it finally made sense as to why he was called here for this. Though it would help the old man, and he'd have power himself, Smiling, he thinks to himself, I might like this just yet. Opening the door, everyone is greeted with the sight of an above-average height male, hidden in a cloak, with silver pants, black flames licking up with red trim. Hi Hokage-sama. He nods without lifting his head, hood covering his face. Standing next to the Hokage, he peers out at all the clan heads. Aburame, Inuzuka, Huga, Nara, Akimichi, and Yamanaka, along with other clans. Smirking, he spied a seat just for him in the middle, separating everyone on the Shinobi Council. Please remove your hood, the Hokage asked while smiling, which a few in the room did not like the looks of. Nodding, the figure gripped the hood and pulled it back with his eyes closed. Many in the room gasped, thinking the yondaime was back. Cries of the yondaime echoed the room. Until he opened his eyes, silence ensued once again. Purple, a red ring around the pupil. The yondaime had blue eyes, strikingly so. No, I'm not Minato, but I am Namikaze, he states coldly. Clan members meet Minato's son, Naruto. Some of the clan heads gasped, others scoffed. Some growled. One even shouted to have this Naruto killed for being a demon. Silence. Everyone looked at the Hokage, who smirked and turned to Naruto. Yes, Naruto? Do you have something to say? Turning to Hiruzen, Naruto nods. Yeah, old man, I want my inheritance, and I want my home, then I want this council seat. After that, I want to take you for ramen. Naruto smirked at the end, as did the Hokage. Nodding, he got up and grabbed a few scrolls from a drawer with the Hokage seal over it on his desk. I moved these here knowing this would happen. This is everything they left with me. They? Naruto asked coldly. Yes, your mother too. He answers skeptically, not knowing the past transgressions. I don't want them. Unless they hold some information on my bloodline, you can burn them, Naruto stated, taking Minato's scrolls and storing them in a sealing scroll. I don't understand. She was your mother. Inoichi was intercepted ferociously by Naruto. Mother? That bitch isn't my mother. No mother would do that to their own son. She can rot in hell for all I care, Naruto said as the temperature slowly dropped a few degrees. Naruto-san, if I may, why do you say this about this woman? Some asked kindly from her seat by Inoichi. Well, since you're so polite, I shall explain to you why. You see, she found out about this curse I seem to have gotten when born. A few people flinched at this. And when she found me, she... Hokage-sama. I'm sorry, but they just burst through and I couldn't stop them, the secretary yelled as a bunch of people filed into the room, taking to the middle of the room past Naruto. Every person in this group had raven hair. Deep, dark, reflective raven hair. The leader had spiked up hair, pushed back into a low ponytail. In a low voice he called out. A council meeting without me? Why the long wait, Hokage-sama? Been on a trip for a while and couldn't find a way back, stranded. Yet you go on like nothing happened. The volume of the male's voice rose quickly. The Hokage noticed a few things. The first on his list was the very person next to him. Naruto stiffened, so much so he hasn't moved since the door burst open and everyone barged in. Seeing his eyes change slowly, the Hokage had no idea what was going on. First the eyes of a tiger, snake, hawk, finally of something he's never seen. A four-pointed star surrounded the pupil, a small circle in the edge of each point. Slowly the star seemed to spin. I'll fucking kill you, Fugaku. You're a dead man, Uchiha. Naruto started to lunge. No one moved, no one could. Naruto's killing intent had everyone's breath missed in the room, and they could barely move, even the Hokage. Pulling out a sword, Naruto kept his pace. A normal blade, thicker and wider and as sharp as any blade out there. The handle was pulled in slightly, giving the blade a tilt. By the hilt was a small half-circle, a bent piece of metal in the middle. A small hole at the tip of the blade indicated it was hollowed out. Rushing forward, Naruto swung the blade down at the stunned Uchiha. Hope this will be sufficient for an apology. Sweat drops. Sorry for too much detail, but I wanted to drag it out a bit, and I guess more ideas came to me here. So far from non-fanfiction review, I have this for votes on girls. Conan 1. Anko 2. Hinata 4. Termari 2? What if Naruto shows his bloodline and harem? Kurenai, Hinata, Anko. And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.